Good evening. Time being 7 o'clock, I call the May 25th, 2023 meeting of the Franklin Town Council to order. Please pause for a moment of silence. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Announcements from the chair. Weren't we just here? All citizens are now welcome to attend public board and committee meetings in person. Meetings are live streamed by Franklin TV and shown on Comcast Channel 11 and Verizon Channel 29. In an effort to maximize citizen engagement opportunities, citizens will be able to continue to participate remotely via phone, or you may click the Zoom link that is on the posted agenda and on the town's website. Phone number is 929-205-6099, and the meeting ID is 899-5382-6523, and then you need to hit the pound sign. Once again, the meeting ID 872-5382-6253, pound. Okay. If residents are just interested in watching the meeting, it will also be live streamed by Franklin TV. Citizens' comments. Citizens are welcome to express their views for up to 3 minutes on a matter that is not on the agenda. The council will not engage in a dialogue or comment on a matter raised during citizens' comments. The town council will give remarks appropriate consideration and may ask the town administrator to review the matter. Is there anyone in council chambers that would like to speak on an item not on tonight's agenda? Name and address in case you forgot.
In case somebody else forgot. No, Steve Sherlock, 10 Lawrence Drive, Community Information Director for Franklin Matters, Franklin TV. Certainly there was a cable problem last night, briefly. We have folks watching to make sure that does not reoccur tonight. And just for everybody's information while we're at it, the Zoom feed is fine. There's a live recording being made at all times. And then the feed goes out to cable, to YouTube, which one other piece we should manage to put into your piece that It is on YouTube.
Okay.
And how to get there, you can go to the franklin.tv. There's the 3 channels, public access, the Pride channel, all access, and the TV, the town hall channel. Click on that, that brings you directly into the YouTube feed. YouTube had no issues last night. Clearly Zoom had no issues. We had a bunch of folks here. It was only the feed via our service into cable that was having some problems briefly. Those were resolved. And again, folks are standing by tonight to make sure that doesn't happen. As a backup, I also have an audio recording so that if things really went Dixie, we at least have an audio recording of the meetings as well. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, is there anyone else in council chambers that would like to speak on an item not on tonight's agenda? Seeing none, is there anyone out in Zoom land that would like to speak on an item not on tonight's agenda? Okay. Seeing none, we will move on. And move on to public hearings. And I declare the continuation of the first public hearing on the FY24 Town of Franklin budget open or reopened. So we ended off with the schools last evening. The next department held is Department 422, everybody's favorite, DPW, Mr. Canareggi. I believe you can find your way to the front desk. Okay. I don't know who he's trying to impress with the bow tie, but
Yeah, seriously. Trying to make people happy.
it's failed.
Answer is no.
It doesn't work without Kathy.
Exactly. I'll start with the council. Questions from the council? Who would like to begin with this piece of the Fab Five? Councilor Chandler.
Start off again. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. Hi, everybody. I just have a couple real quick questions. The first one under 422. Last year, there's a line item where you spent just 12,000 on chemicals, and this year it's up to 100,000.
Is that, we buy a lot of different chemical, I'm sorry, I'm Bruce Canareggi, I'm the Public Works Director, Town of Franklin. And I'm sitting up here with Kathy Moore, she's the financial manager for the DPW. She's really good, knows all the numbers, that's why she's here. And I got some of my other stuff in the chat, I know.
Yes, I'll direct it to
I'm
that.
not, I'm not sure which line.
Which
item
line,
you're
because we buy a lot of
on.
different chemicals, some,
Which
some are for
department?
water, sewer, these could be
It was under
in-house.
422. Right at the bottom, it should say chemicals, but if we can't find it, that's okay. I just don't have your budget right in front of me.
I'm not sure.
I know.
There's so many.
Our
Yeah, no, I know you
our
guys-
budget's really big, we got a lot of stuff.
We buy a lot of chemicals in the water department.
Page
Okay.
83,
You see it, Counselor?
422.
under snow and ice.
Oh, is there some?
There's a few, the ones under snow and ice.
You see page
Okay.
I should look at this one.
Brian, you want to continue to look at
Yeah,
that? I'll come back to you if you want to.
okay, and just lastly, let's just go with the, I'm really glad you're hiring this fleet manager.
It's on page 83.
83. Thank you, Karen.
Put the fleet manager while we're at that.
Snow and
It was like the very bottom of it.
It is, it's right here, page 83.
I'm not
You
looking.
want
You're talking 12,000 up to 1,000?
Which
Or up to
department are
100,000?
you?
So that's
looking
what, that,
Water.
Water.
So nice.
no, snow and ice. I think we actually did some posts on it. We went with a new system. We're doing a liquid processing now, when we kind of eased into that. And that's where we go out and pre-treat the roads, and we got, the purchasing about a tank that sprays out, has those rails that go out, and we do a pre-treatment. It only works certain times, but it allows the ice does not bond with the roadway. So it actually saves, it does two things. It allows us more time to get out there, because as the precipitation starts falling and freezing, it will melt it. Okay, so it gives a better chance to respond, and then also it allows the public to keep going out there till we get going. So we had bought a tank, and then we had bought another tank. We have the holding capacity. The snow and ice is really, we do a lot of different technologies, and a lot of times we were spraying the calcium on the salt to make it on the road, but it's actually a pure liquid. We can go out, like, if it's not gonna rain before, we can go up to 4 days before the storm and put it down. So what we've been doing is like our 5-truck route, all the mains and all the hills, and some folks might recognize that they saw the squiggly lines in the road. So that's what we did, and that's why that chemical went up.
So that's what it is, that green squiggly,
Lines, yes,
gotcha. I think a lot of people have seen that.
yes.
Correct, okay.
And this year, it was a really good winter for us, because it wasn't a big winter, but we did go out, 22 times? Yeah, 22.
At the 13.
No, 22 times, and we did use this a couple of times, and once again, we have to watch the weather, we have to use it. It's like anything else, it's the right application at the right time.
Doesn't work if it's so.
So we hope to expand it
Okay.
further.
And as I just said, I'm really glad you hired this fleet manager, because we have a lot of vehicles now. I mean, I don't know the exact number, but there's quite a few. And I've seen our gas has gone up astronomical.
Yeah.
Astronomical. So I'm hoping maybe he could even get a handle on where these cars are going, who's going where, and maybe even next time you come to talk to us, you could bring him.
That'd be great.
That would
And,
be very
Yeah,
helpful.
that's a great idea.
yeah, to give an overview of it, we have over 230 registered vehicles, and for the folks at home, we don't just maintain the public works vehicles, we maintain every vehicle in town. The only thing that parts we don't do is for the fire department, there's specialized equipment that the chief works on sending out, but most of the vehicles, we maintain everything in town. And that's just the registered vehicles. That ain't all the tow behind, compressors, generators, weed whackers. I mean, the list goes on and on. So our guys do a lot of work. And initially, we did have 4 mechanics at one time. Because the reduction went down to 3, but outsourcing is getting very expensive. And then, as you heard from my colleagues, just employment practices, trying to find people is very, very difficult. So this is a good thing we should be able to do in-house and definitely save money.
Okay, thank you, Brutus. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Chandler. Here, Brutus, let me lead you into a little dissertation. You've got one of the busiest departments by the fact that DPW affects every single resident in the community, one way or another. Residents, businesses, property owners. Can you talk about some of the biggest initiatives and projects citizens will see next year, i.e. stormwater, Beaver Street Interceptor, water mains, parks?
Sure. I think last year was probably one of our busiest years ever because we got different funding sources of the federal government, and you guys, the way you allocate, there's a lot of different options that we could, but this town, what I always tell my peers out there, you guys have been really good about capital investment in the town, and I think that's, me personally, besides I'm a public works guy, it's a good thing because people can touch and see and feel it, and it's a long-lasting thing. And I think you recognize that our infrastructure, like everything else, it needs love, it needs help, it needs to be maintained, and needs to be replaced. So we did, the high visibility, obviously doing Chestnut Street last year, and then those paving jobs. This year, we put the water line in over in Arlington, and that road, we met with the contractor, and that got bid out, and they're gonna start on that whole area of town over there, Arlington, replace all that. And that's, the downtown, so curb to curb, replace the sidewalks, concrete and granite. Grove Street, that's a really cool project that, it's not just us, it's, Jamie working on, we got a huge grant for that. We started out with the one up at the end, the traffic signal, that was an internal type thing, that was part of the planning board. We're waiting for that signal head. I mean, you used to be able to buy these things off the shelf. It's been 23 weeks, and we're still waiting on it. They keep telling us it's going to come. So they've actually gone ahead and put up the mast because we're just waiting to get up there. And then once we get it up there, all we got to do the timing and get people used to it. But that should be going up any time now.
You try Amazon?
Yeah, free. We're not Prime. So.
I've just been telling people to call you.
Yeah, I know. They're not afraid to call like when it's going up. And I will say, just so folks know, that is it's kind of like the downtown area. It's gonna improve the traffic flow, particularly the people coming out of Grove Street. It's not necessarily gonna increase the time going up Washington. Okay, so people think it's gonna be a whole lot faster. It's really not gonna improve that, but it's gonna make the area a lot safer and allow traffic to get in and out at different times. We're looking to do some mill and overlay. That's where we grind up the top. It's a pavement preservation type thing, and we're doing that down on Union Street and pretty much where we left off last year, and then going up the hill. So we're going to clean up the lower parts of Union Street. The other thing we're kind of doing the mill and overlay. Maybe you guys saw that we actually have a small mill machine in town that we do our own guys ourselves, and we do some milling and paving. And it's more of a permanent patch. So you might have seen the guys out there doing some stuff. We were just getting the stuff ready for the parade route and, taking care of that stuff. Infrared program, it's not that glorious, but it's a lot of things. You see those guys that come out and they basically melt the asphalt and fix it. Castings might be loose. It makes it smoother. It makes that area last a whole lot longer. It's a cheaper way to do things. Sidewalks, we're continuing with our sidewalk panel replacement program uptown. We replaced a lot of handicap ones that you saw that didn't meet the standards, because last thing we want is have something happen or the town gets sued. So we're staying on top of that. In-house, we've also, the guys been working up on Jackson Circle and Jefferson, taking out some of the cracks out there, and I think they did 55, or Tony, like 55, 56 cuts? 52, I'm exaggerating. But they cut them all out, we're gonna go ahead
Again.
and fix them all. What's that?
Never
I know.
You exaggerate.
I know. And then we got Janie Ave. Yeah, I think that's off of Pond Street, Schofield Drive. I actually was listening to a happy resident here saying how well it came out today. And they,
Thanks, Callie.
she actually employed the town too, so that's good. Double customer. But that job we bid out early like we always do. It came in very low. The contractor had pipe, and the job's already done. I mean, it's not even June. Our major water line job's done, because they wanted to get in, get out, and they're ready to go. Sewer, we're going to continue with the lining. It's actually our Phase 7 program. I've told you about that before. We basically tie up the pipes, get all the leaks out of them, so we're not paying more money to the sewer treatment plant. You guys saw a lot of that going on last year. We got the same company coming back. They're excellent. They work. They work in that smelly stuff all day, but whatever. We see them. And then obviously the interceptor. We finally got our last piece of the pie, and that's the permit from DOT to go dig up 140. So we're meeting actually with the contractor. We've just had some emails back and forth. They're gonna be doing some line, what they have to do, but the main construction is gonna start late summer, early fall, and go into the following year. And then the big lift station over on Beaver Street will be built next year, because they gotta do a lot of submittals. And then the other thing is, these are kind of the cool projects that like folks don't always realize because they just show up, but some of these are like years in the making. Like Beaver Street, behind there, down there, we built that whole new complex down there, and this is like a really kind of a cool thing because, Ryan gets some grants, he never has enough money, he whines to Jamie, the DPW help out.
I have never heard Ryan whine ever, just for the record.
Come on, Ryan. But you get to.
Ever whine.
I know. So I shouldn't say whine, but we
You shouldn't say whine.
Yeah, we go down there, we broke up the job, we had a big site contractor come do some of the work, Public Works did a lot of work, both the highway, the parks, the water side, and we save a lot of money. It takes a little while, but you get a park that maybe investment-wise, we might have $400,000 in it, but if we put out the bid, it might be $1.2 million. But it's a really nice facility down there. The sculpture park, we're actually having a rededication for that. We're doing some stuff down there. Been working with that. When I get some more folks down there, that's another cool park. As you remember, the old pond down there. That place was awful. I mean,
Excuse
down
me,
there.
town pool.
Town pool, yeah. And it was bad. And that was one that took a while. But look at it now. It's like it's just whether the town can say they got a sculpture park our size. And people. We were down there. I've been down there a lot lately because we're doing stuff. Residents love it. It's nice and small. It's flat. They can walk around there. It's a great little park. We're starting to do an expansion of the parking lot up at the rail trail because that's getting so much busy. I'm taking a lot of material that we use in town that we normally have to haul away. We're going to use in-house material, so it helps us up there. So it's like killing birds with two stones. And then the last one that's kind of like
Killing
pretty
two
cool.
birds with one stone, not killing birds with two stones. I'm just sorry, Mr. Chairman, I just had to lob that one up there.
First and foremost, you can dress them up.
Just stop killing the birds.
I just really wanted to interrupt to make sure that people were not thinking he's killing birds. The tree guy's killing birds.
Okay.
And the last one was Nason Street. We've been trying to rehab that for a long time, and once again, Ryan, he didn't whine. He went out and got some grants. But Public Works, we were down there, we oversaw a lot of fencing. We did a lot of work, the hydro seam down there to save some money. So these are things that are like the resident can show up and say, "Wow, this is great." But there is a process to get there, and it's one thing that's neat about. I can say I've been working in Franklin a long time. That there's a lot of the education work, a lot of collaboration between stuff in town, and a lot of different funding sources, to get where we're at. And there's a lot of cool things. Delcart is another one. You guys acquired a house. I remember tearing it down. I was asking the excavator, and look at that place now. We got dam money. We got grant. It's a beautiful place. The mayor of Marlboro was down here. The other day, he wanted to go over and see it. He liked the walking bridges and stuff like that. So the word gets out. So it's pretty cool stuff.
just touch on what we might see, if any, construction, Beaver Street Interceptor?
What you're gonna see?
Yeah, what we might see.
Oh, what you're gonna see. What I tell people is, we're going right up 140. And we're putting a big pipe down there, and it's gonna cause a lot of problems, and inconvenience people. And like Franklin, one of the things about this town is the way I describe it. It's a wagon wheel of roads going out. There's not a lot of easy detours around that area. So, there is.
That's why I want you to speak to it, so that people understand what 140 traffic is bad enough.
Correct. There will always be open going through there, and we are working with some different firms. We're gonna come up, I'll show you, we're gonna market it. We're basically gonna put a lot of information out there. We're gonna overwhelm. The idea is we wanna work with the businesses up there so they know when it's gonna happen. They know they can plan for it, and yes, it's gonna be disruptive, but we also wanna make it accommodating as best we can. So, but, if I could sit here and say people aren't gonna get frustrated, they are gonna get frustrated. And it's gonna be, but it's a project, as you all know, we talk about, it has to be done, so.
Okay, my last question actually came up last night. I received a text from my wife that said, if Brutus is there, ask him why our trash wasn't picked up and recycle was.
Several months?
Yesterday.
Oh,
For months.
Yeah, yeah.
Derek?
My wife will ask me when I get home, so.
They've been having long lines at the disposal facility, so it's just like in Millbury where our trash is hauled to, sometimes they're backed up a little bit, and there's just a big long line of trucks, and it's just a matter of waiting, because they
Can't
only
get back
dump
and
one at a time.
forth.
Yeah, it's about an
Okay.
hour route, an hour to get there and an hour to get back, when you're doing 55 on the highway, so.
And what happens also is there's DOT hours, what these drivers can work.
Yeah, they can only work so long.
So they're stuck up there, and what's really stinks, it's not like, I mean, it'd be nice if one day we disrupt the Tuesday people and the following week's a Wednesday. It's always the Friday people, because they're at the end of the week with these extra hours, typically what happens, so they're the ones that usually get picked
Yeah,
up on
that's
Saturday.
true.
But we do have a good relationship with Waste Management. I get an update, I know Derek does every day, which roads aren't done. We post it on Facebook, so, people can see it's constantly up there, what's going on, so.
Thanks, Brutus. Counselor Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Brutus, I have to ask, in the process of cleaning up the sculpture park and the Old Town Pool, did you happen to find the chairman's flip-flops that he lost from 50 years ago when that was his swimming hole?
1952,
Oh, You
53?
could never find them. It's never found
Well,
them
they're all
in the
microplastics
process
now.
of the time.
They didn't have flip-flops back then.
Oh, that's true. Brutus, first of all, I am not going to ask and delve into 1,000 different questions about your department, because you are by far one of the few departments, no insult to the rest of the departments, that we see almost on a regular basis, because you come in here with all kinds of presentations and you talk about all the multiple projects that are going on in the town from time to time. It is disheartening to see the increase in many of the expenses that you've had to incur for the past year. They are understandable based on the simple fact of inflation. Bobby mentions it all the time, the cost at the airport, the cost of fuel, the cost for chemicals, the cost of everything else that's going up. I just hope that the public gets a chance to actually see these increases and understand why they're so significant. It's no different than my house. My food bill went up 3 times as much, my gas bill went up 3 times as much, my natural gas bill went up 3 times as much. And that's just across the board for all of our departments. But, curious question, just on 424, I know that's not 422, but the street lighting, why does it even bother to be on here anymore, Jamie?
It's gonna come off in a year. The
Okay.
only reason why it's there through Mr. Chairman is because there's one, I think it was FY '22, there's just one before it gets kicked off. And obviously that account, if you recall, it's a small victory, but, we're down over 100,000 on that account because of the LED lights.
Yeah.
So that conversion saved us a tremendous amount of money. And we're hoping that number will go down, so we're just blending that into the entire DPW budget. So
Gotcha.
I hope that makes sense.
No, that makes complete sense. So, other than
What's
that,
that?
that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Counselor Jones. Counselor Frangillo?
Yeah, thank you. Through you. I wanted to touch upon some of those wins that sometimes go unnoticed, and I'm glad you got the chance to list them all off. That was great. One more, which is sort of another collaborative piece, but we're a tree city, which is super cool. That's, whenever I see the parking tree, you know, congratulations, and we appreciate you for taking care of our trees over time to put us in that position. I wanted to touch upon that inflation thing. Yeah, we talk about inflation in a way that, okay, we have to increase personnel costs in order to keep up so that they can afford things, but very, very directly, it just increases the cost of taking care of our town, and those are unavoidable costs. When we talk about the pot not being big enough, that's one direct way, and inflation doesn't come back down. It only goes up, so we'll be chasing that for a while. Okay, this sort of comes and goes, but as we look for opportunities for efficiencies, I know that you guys have been thinking about this, and I've been on this, and I'm glad that Derek came in. I just happened to be caught in a rainstorm with a guy running a composting operation, and got into a long conversation about the opportunities for municipal savings if we expand composting, particularly if you have a site away from residential, easily accessible off a highway, which we do have. So I'm wondering where we're at in terms of thinking about townwide composting in terms of, you know, the way that the cost savings come is diverting food waste out of our, or really organic matter, out of our waste stream, and we pay by that's like something like 40% of the weight or something like that.
It's just a weight, it's expensive.
Yeah.
Most of the stuff that we throw away.
Yeah.
So
yeah, where are conversations at with that? Are we?
We've been talking about this for years, and basically part of what we're going to look at when we redevelop the recycling center is that site up there. We thought about doing the past, but at this time, as you know, we're so crunched up there as we are, and we're still working through the state. It just does not make sense to do it up there. We don't have the space. But part of when we actually finalize, it's the last project ever since I've been here, was to transfer the land from the state forest. So once we get that and, you know, funds become available, we go ahead and start designing the new recycling center. That is something we're considering doing up there. And it's, you're right, it would save a lot on our hauling fees. It basically comes down to heavy weight. Right. And that's what we pay for. So to get rid of that could significantly reduce our tonnage going to a wheelabrator. But on the other hand, we have to figure out a new hauling system, storing it up there, the curbside pickup, and you know, some of the folks around, we first went to single stream, just buying the carts alone, like if we're gonna offer composting to everybody in town, you know, as part of the enterprise system, you're looking at $1 million+ in carts, so that would have to come up for the town to be paid off. Usually when you're doing a new program like this, and we were one of the first to do this single stream with the carts, there was grant programs out there, and so some of our carts were, almost half our carts were paid for by the state through grants. Or we don't do it part of the enterprise system, and you know, we could be an opt-in, you buy it as a choice, and that would be. But as far as a location, we are that's our best opportunity now, is when we redevelop the recycling center.
Yeah, it was cool hearing that. I appreciate you thinking through that and sort of keeping it on the radar. It's cool hearing sort of, it's one thing to have townwide composting, but the real savings are if you can actually have a local facility. And it sounded like there's demand for local facilities in a way that they would supplement, that most composting companies would help us cover some of those expenses.
To be candid with you, most of these places that we've looked at, it just comes down to, you know, you're gonna wanna zone it, and everybody around is gonna be not in my backyard, wherever you put it, because they're gonna just think of rotten trash, stinking, coyotes, animals, everything else. So that's why, you know, that location over there is not bad, because it's up against the state forest, it's isolated, you don't have neighbors. But,
and the trucks can come in and off the highway.
Correct.
Going through residential.
not during the Interceptor project, though, because the traffic.
Great point.
So
no, we're looking for any way to
Yeah.
win some money back. Yeah, the other thing, and this is something I haven't delved into quite as much, but as we're looking for waste fees, I hear a lot of, and I was sort of pulled aside at one of the MMA conferences about sort of pay-as-you-throw policies being an opportunity to encourage the reduction of weight and waste policies. What, have we looked into that? What,
So if you talk to people pay as you throw, they would much rather have the system that we have.
yeah,
We encourage, recycling, which they do to a certain degree, and you pay as you throw. But our system is a lot cheaper, it's a lot easier, it's a lot more efficient than what happens. That's why people are going to the pay as you throw. But getting away from what they have right now, a lot of their systems are pay as throw because they don't have an enterprise fund, and it's still involved in their general fund, as far as that's how it's paid for. So it's competing funds. If you look at, I've done a lot of work with this, like the town of Norwood. They like having their trash program in their tax base because they have such a large commercial. The Toyota dealerships paying to supplement everybody's trash pickup. We don't have that necessarily the luxury right here because we're more residential, so an enterprise fund makes more sense. Because we really, you have no idea when I got here, it was like the Wild West with trash. You could put out anything on the side of the road and they would pick it up all the time. Then we started going down to 3 barrels. Then we started getting rid of all the bulk burnables. We've reduced our trash that goes away so much. It would be hard to say to go to as a pay-as-you-throw program. Because we are cheap and we do restrict how much trash people put out. We're doing it now.
yeah. Appreciate that. And then the last one is, Councilor Chandler already identified that increase in chemical expenses. Similar to some other ones, right? We're doing this because we anticipate that it'll reduce costs. It's tough to not see it, where we're doing that, but we're also, snow and ice, or sand, or no, sand is 5,000 down, but we're at 80,000 up on, we're a ton up on salt, and we're 80,000 up on chemicals. So just being able to visualize the savings. I hope that next year or sort of in the supplemental that we see some of those savings, right? Because the only reason that these investments are worth it, I'm glad that you're looking for them, is if they actually, end up saving.
Yeah, we've tried different things, and we're not all in, and we've been going in slow because I want to see the value associated. It's tough with the winter because you never know what winter you get, and some's warmer, and some's colder, and some of the applications. Generally, one thing I want to say about our budget, my budget, is that the majority of budgets in town, they're about 90-95% personnel. And I think what was hit on is here, my budget is only about 37-38% personnel. The rest are all expenses. So, Glenn, when you brought up about our costs going up, it's because so much of that goes up because it's like the home. You also the heating oil, everything that you buy at home, we're buying in bulk, and we're buying a lot of it. So the inflation really drove us this year. And what we tried to do, we negotiate gas prices. Kathy works really hard on that. We got about half our gas now, I think, at a good price that we should be able to bring that number down. Like, hopefully I don't have to spend that money next year, but, it happens. The trash and recycling, I said this the other day, it costs over $100 a ton now to get rid of that commingled that goes out there, to get rid of it. It's over $100 a ton. We used to get paid for that. We used to get paid. We made money off it. Now we're paying $100 a ton. It costs less money to burn it.
Yeah.
It is cheaper to throw your trash. Economically, it would be cheaper just to burn everything. Okay? But, we recycle. That's the right thing to do. It's mandated by the state, but it costs us more money. So, we're constantly juggling that stuff with marketing missions.
Facilities don't want to take it.
What's that?
Facilities don't want to take it. We keep losing facilities that are willing to take our.
Correct. The biggest one is glass, believe it or not. That's the hardest one to get rid of that's commingled. If we took the glass out of there, we get money for cardboard and everything else. Glass is heavy to haul, fuel price gone up and everything else, and there's not a lot of processing in it. So that's the big one in the commingled.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Frangillo. Councilor Hamblin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the chair, welcome Brutus. Thank you for being here, and all the DPW folks out there in the audience. I have another collaboration that people can see, is the downtown bridge and the beautification that occurred last Saturday with the Downtown Partnership and all of the baseball team. They did a fabulous job. But the DPW was there to help pick up all the trash and deliver the mulch and to make sure that everything was cleaned up. And so that's another thing that you guys do that probably people don't see that either.
Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you, and thank everyone that helped with that.
It's the guys. We got a really, really good crew down there. You know, it's changed through the years, and we talk about it, but we got a solid staff down there that, you know, I can come up with all the policies, I can come up with all the ideas, but you still need the folks out there to do the work, and they do. And they're a great crew, and they're responsive, and town's lucky to have them.
They seem very happy to help, I would say. Right. So I know you, I think most people know my favorite subject is stormwater. And I get a lot of questions all the time, and so I've got this question a lot recently, and I thought it would be good for you to address it, or maybe Derek or Doug or someone. So people have asked me if the stormwater utility fee that goes into effect will actually, the 1.1 million,
Yeah.
1.1 million that we think it will generate, thank you, will that actually pay for all of the work that has to be done on our unfunded federal permit? The
I don't
mandate?
need them to tell you that. Absolutely not. It's not
Okay.
close. There's a lot of work that needs to, I think we're going into it, even we told you from the get-go, we're looking at, you know, pretty much $60+ million. And that was funds that were, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago, and they're estimated. So, no, it doesn't. We're still trying to, you know, most stuff we're doing, we're doing some work, but a lot of it's still planning.
Right.
Where we're gonna go, and, you know, I'd be kidding you if I didn't come back here and I'm gonna say I'm gonna need some more money at some point. You know, it's coming down. We're in the process right now, we're on year 5, and it's giving us, you know, direction where we're gonna go. And kind of what we're trying to figure out is where we get our, you know, because everything's based on estimates and credits, so it's the biggest, we're gonna get the biggest bang for the buck, basically.
Right.
And where we spend our money the smartest. So that's kind of where we're at.
Right, so and I think one of the things that a lot of people don't understand is that this federally, this unfunded mandate that we have to do things for, the amount of work will increase. Is that true, that so that the work that we have to get done to match the permit that we have to follow, we have to actually do more work every year? It's not like it's gonna go away.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, all right, thank you. I
We'll
hope
never-
I hope everybody heard that, and that helps explain it a little bit more for the people that are trying to understand.
Yes, you are correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Hamblin. Councilor DeLarco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hi, Brutus, how are you, pal?
Good, how are you? Sharon?
Just a couple questions. I know you got a good crew down there. Are you short any guys?
Well, everything goes through, we're down about 3, but we've had a lot of transition. We've actually been doing, the last couple of months, we've had some really good candidates come through.
Yeah.
So we're doing pretty good. We were down quite a few.
Yeah, because I'm a little scared. I know that now that fleet manager,
Yes.
is he gonna come internal, you think?
I hope so. We
Yeah.
have a good candidate. I think we have a really good program down there that the folks see that, that people that wanna, you know, move up. You got 2 great guys here in the audience.
Oh, absolutely.
Derek and Tony, that, you know, I love saying they start out as summer help, and, you know, they're superintendents now.
What scares me more than anything, and this probably goes to Jamie too, is, you know, I was talking to Charlie Ryan the other day, and he's running into it in Braintree, is that now that Mass Water just gave all their guys a huge raise, like their mechanics are up to 48, and DOT mechanics are like 95,000 to start, so that's something that we're gonna have to run into, I think, in the future, yeah.
Just quickly through, Mr. Chairman, Councilor DeLuca raises a great point. Obviously compensation, but just a small success story that just came across this morning. We filled one of those slots with actually a Franklin guy named Joe. He had been working in DPWs in 3 other communities for the last 9 years. But because of one of the amendments everybody made in the contract about how service years could be carried over if you work in another municipality to here.
Yeah, I can carry mine.
He single-handedly pointed out that provision in our contract, which was a management priority, and the union was very receptive to it. Now we get an experienced person with 8 years' experience already in 3 other communities and DPWs coming to the town, who lives in Franklin, raising his family in Franklin, and took the job here because he doesn't have to start back, as you know, at ground zero at year 1.
Right.
So, I think to Kobe, Councilor Frangillo, Councilor Hamlin, everybody's comments earlier about the little things that we're doing.
No,
So
absolutely.
there's a great piece where the bonus wasn't it. He's saving money on gas now, so the little minor pay cut, but he's still able to keep that vacation time and not lose a lot and make that transition. So the guys down in the DPW are getting somebody with 8 years' experience. We're not getting somebody brand new. So there's a lot of little things, as you know, Councilor DeLorco, that
Yeah.
the guys are looking for to try to figure out where they're getting their best job. So I just say that as like a little small success story that
No,
was kind
that's
of.
an
We
excellent
just
point,
went
Jamie,
through
yeah.
the
Yeah.
process this afternoon at like 4 o'clock. This was just a
Right.
few hours ago. So
No, and I hope we can get it internal. I hope the fleet manager can go internal, because he already knows the system, and
Oh, yeah.
that's huge. That's a huge, coming from somebody that is a fleet manager. I couldn't even see somebody coming in. I have over 900 pieces of equipment, and there's no way somebody could just come walking in and
Do you want a job?
I'm on the end, brother.
Throw it out there.
Thank you, but, no, I was talking to Charlie, and he's a counselor in Braintree, and he said they're all getting a little nervous because they got like a 15% raise, DOT got a 15% raise, so didn't, Mass Water. I mean, it hasn't come our way, so it hasn't come my way, so.
It's been one of the hardest positions to fill. And one good thing about Franklin is that, we're outside the 128 loop.
Mhm.
So, a couple of mechanics we've had, come from the Rhode Island area, so they're working their way in here. And as Jay mentioned the traffic, one of the other guys, Franklin guy we got was, he was working for Newton. And you start down explaining to him just the quality of life. You're not driving an extra 40 minutes of traffic, coming back and forth, never mind the gas and stuff like that. So that is one of the good things about being out here. Our pool's a little farther away, but as
No.
time goes by,
A lot of people just would rather work in their hometown.
Oh, yeah.
I get that, and
Yeah.
I get that, and I hope it stays that way, but,
Yeah.
I was just giving you a little heads up, because I know you know Charlie too, so,
Yeah.
Charlie was telling me that what they're running into, so, but hopefully we don't with that was a nice little story, Jamie. That made me feel better.
yeah, I mean it's.
Thank you, Councilor DeLorco. Councilor Pellegrini.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You mentioned composting, and the school department is already doing that.
oh, yeah.
And
We are.
that's a great thing, it's saving all kinds of money there. But then it worried me because you said that where it will be left, and animals and rats and whatever would be coming around, how would you control that, people in their houses? It's almost reminding me of years ago, we used to had a garbage man that came, and we had the garbage pails, and they were in the ground.
Wow, that's 4 years.
Yeah,
Well, that was probably 90 years ago.
No, I remember that.
And now we're coming back, we're calling it composting, but we
Correct.
got rid of all of that stuff that way. I know this isn't the time, it's the budget time, but that's something to talk about, how we would take care of things, because we don't want to see, like in Boston, the rats and everything all around as far as with the restaurants and all.
There are different control measures, and
Yeah.
but that's why you kind of got to get the right site. You don't want any rats, just let the coyotes run around, but then some people get It's that whole food chain thing.
No. Okay, but we can talk about this at another
Yeah.
time, though. Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Pellegrini. Any other councilors? Question for DPW.
I just have one comment. Councilor Cormier made a comment last night. And
Yeah.
He was very correct about, at a minimum, we have $140 million worth of infrastructure we need to repair. He also said that, and he is correct, that, people do not find water pipes, roadways, or sewer pipes sexy. I do, okay?
Apologies.
It's a general statement, but I just want to let you know I do it.
Okay, is there anyone in council chambers that has a question for the DPW? Please, name and address.
Steve Sherlock, 10 Lawrence Drive, Franklin Matters, and Franklin Public Radio. Not a question per se, but another piece in terms of the collaboration, appreciation and thanks to you through the cultural district, because I'm helping them. And your folks did the priming for some of the electrical boxes that are now being painted as the Artsy Box Project, which through Mass Cultural Council, Franklin Cultural Council, Franklin Cultural District. So there's 8 utility boxes that as you start driving around, there's 3 on the Common, there's some on Main Street, et cetera. There's now colors there. It's not this gray or black or
Ugly-looking box.
whatever. They're awesome looking. So thank you for the help in that collaboration too.
Thank you.
A couple of them look like Brutus's bow tie.
Who said budgeting wasn't fun?
I wore this for you.
I knew you did.
Public Works section.
Is there anyone else in council chambers that would like to, or have a question for DPW?
Or even a comment.
Okay, is there anyone out in Zoom land that has any questions for DPW? Time to get out while the getting's good.
Well, I'll be
Thanks,
back.
Brutus.
We got a couple enterprise funds to go over.
Yeah.
So, thank
True.
you.
Thank you, Brutus. Okay, next department held is 541 Council on Aging. And that was me that held that.
Oh, yeah,
And, let me see, why did I hold that? Okay,
Because you
Did-
wanted to come in.
Oh, I
You can do whatever you want, Dave.
yeah,
Sure, I'll sit. Sarah,
Then-
wanna come up? Come on.
Introduce Sarah,
sure.
right?
Yeah, Danielle, you want to introduce yourself and Sarah?
Sure. Hello, I'm Danielle Hopkins, the director at the Franklin Senior Center. And this is my new deputy director, Sarah Amaral. Very nice to meet you.
Welcome, hi Sarah,
Thank you.
welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Danielle, again, thank you for the presentation earlier this year on all the great things that are going on at the senior center. And I don't think anybody would disagree that the center's probably more vibrant, which has a lot to do with leadership. And I thank you for that. One of the things that we just recently passed with the second round on the capital campaign was the new van. And I just wondered if you might describe how the new van will service the community.
Sure, absolutely. We're excited that we're going to get a new van. I was not here, obviously, 7 years ago, but I guess we had a combination with Medway that fell through. We no longer have a van. Many senior centers in the area not just have one, but multiple vans. Hopkinton, I think, has 3. But this bus or this van...
Stop begging, you got one.
Sorry, we already got one. We're excited just for one, but it's been asked about. It's a huge thing that the seniors want. We're still gonna have GATRA ridership. Obviously, GATRA is a huge part of how seniors get to and from the senior center and transportation in general. But this, we will be able to do fun things like, field trips and senior days and all the fun things. But on top of that, we have a supportive day program with people with dementia or, disabilities, and they're able to come to our, some of them are from out of town, some of them are from in town. GATRA may not be able to provide the service, to door. They have to, with dementia, you can't just say, that's the front door and expect them to walk through it. So this way we can, they do help us with that. On top of that, medical appointments, or going to something local such as Walmart or, what's the other thing, Market Basket, that, seniors, it's a little bit more subsidized pricing. GATRA, because we're at the very edge of it, doesn't really give that opportunity. Same thing with doctor's appointments. If they can't drive, they can't get to a medical appointment if GATRA doesn't go there. So we're able to kind of help subsidize that and help provide that opportunity to go to those places.
Great. Thank you, Danielle.
Sure.
Any other questions from the council?
Just a comment.
Please.
I just want to say.
Councilor Jones.
I just want to say how happy I am that the senior center's running in all 8 cylinders. Things are going really well over there. You're welcome, by the way. I think everyone's doing such a great job at the senior center. I know it's the feedback from some of the seniors I talked to are very happy with things.
Good.
Thank you
Takes
for
a
all the hard
village,
work.
thank you.
Takes a village, I like that. Councilor Pellegrini.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I love the senior center, and I enjoy going up there. I enjoy playing cards. And there are so many out-of-town people up there that I was surprised when I first started to go and found that out. Now, you just said something about this new bus. It would be for a doctor's appointment, so we take the bus for one person? I mean, don't we have Fisher, Franklin, and different things like that to be able to do appointments? I think of the bus as being field trips, something like that, not considering a doctor's appointment a field trip.
Yeah, I mean, majority is gonna be field trips, but we have to look at the community needs as well, and sometimes doctor's appointments might be on there. Hopefully, we can do a shopping trip and bring them to a doctor's appointment, and then pick them all up at the same time.
Exactly. You'll plan
We
it
do
out, I'm
use
sure.
Fish a lot, we do use RSVP, which is kind of more of a veterans programming.
Yeah.
And we're looking to help with transportation on that end, with volunteers. But this would help provide another opportunity, shopping opportunities, but field trips, they wanna go out, they wanna have fun.
Well, I did say that I'd like to have seen a coach instead of just the small van, but
yes.
that didn't go over very well. Maybe one of these days, maybe one of these.
That also comes with the special driver, so.
Exactly. Thank you for the job that you're doing there, both of you. It's run fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Pellegrini. Councilor Cormier Ledger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome. Thank you both very, very much for everything that you do and everything that your staff does. I have the nice opportunity to be at the senior center quite a bit, and the energy there is fantastic. Everybody is so happy at every corner of the building. The staff, the volunteers, the residents, and it is truly a community place, which I think is pretty special. Right, we get people that I've talked to, they come from a half hour away because their town doesn't have anything like it, doesn't offer anything like it, doesn't have the cafe, doesn't have the staff, doesn't have the free speaker programs or the different, snacks going on or the yoga. I mean, it's true, it's to your credit, and I think it's to Franklin's credit to celebrate that as an asset. Because people talk about what makes us unique as a town and where do tax dollars go, and do we have our struggles? Absolutely. But we can be very, very proud of a multi-million-dollar senior center that's fully staffed, that's serving thousands of people a year at the other end of life that need just as much care and attention as our children do. So thank you for everything that you both do, and keep up the good work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Cormier Ledger. Councilor DeLorco?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do you plan on having any volunteers drive too, or is that just going to be a full-time job or a part-time job?
Right now, the plan is to have right now, we plan this budget for a half-time driver, just because, but it should be a full-time driver with a administrative assistant to help organize and coordinate.
Oh, that would be good.
Yeah.
That would be good.
I mean, we could probably look into volunteerism. We have a lot of them.
Oh, no,
We're very blessed in that aspect.
The old van at the 225th town celebration, somebody told, at the time, Town Clerk Pellegrini, that I had a driver's license, so I had to drive all weekend, people around, and it was like the Freedom Trail. I had to go around the whole town to like the Freedom Trail.
But didn't it make you feel good?
It did, yeah. But I would volunteer too, if you run into troubles, I'll definitely drive.
I'll write your name down.
Thank you. Any other councilors? Councilor Hamblin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the chair, thank you both, Danielle and Sarah, for being here. Every time I go into the senior center, I feel very welcome, and everyone there is having a wonderful time. I think you have an event coming up soon that you might need volunteers for. It's the Senior Olympics. I didn't know if you wanted to talk a little bit about what you're going to do there and what help you need with.
Sure. So this was something we started last year. Foxborough Senior Center had been doing it, and I heard about it, and I took it and ran with it. This year, it's going to be a 2-week event, the Senior Olympics. If any of you want to participate, you're more than welcome to. Some of you, a lot of you aren't quite there
Can we
yet.
do a team?
You can do a team. We have a 2-mile relay. That's a team event.
Want to do a team?
But I think we have.
Councilor Pellegri's doing the first half.
Yeah. And I want to see her with that baton so she can pass it.
But we have 18 different events throughout the 2 weeks, from pickleball and basketball to puzzle wars and trivia and Scrabble. So, it's not just physical elements, it's also some smarts. And then the last day of the Olympics is going to be our big barbecue and awards ceremony. And so I invited all of you guys to help me hand out all the different awards. But if anyone's interested in volunteering to help run the different programs, or we're always looking for volunteers at the Senior Center. Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, it sounds like a blast.
Yeah.
I know my neighbor did it last year.
Yes, they were gold
Both of
medal
them.
winners, yeah.
Yes, they won medals, they're so excited.
And the date of that, Danielle?
It is June 12th to the 23rd, so the awards and the barbecue are the 23rd.
Thank you
You're very
both for
welcome.
everything you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions, comments from any councilors? I go to, okay. Anyone in council chambers have a question or comment for the senior center? How about out in Zoom land? Any questions or comments? Don't see any. Danielle,
Thank you very
sorry.
much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next department held is Department 610, Library. Councilor Frangillo, I think, held that, along with Brian Chandler. So, Councilor Frangillo.
Yeah, just quickly, this is one of the spaces that we don't always get to hear the vision and sort of potential wish list for. There's a lot of people in town that never go to the library, and they miss out on how important the library is to how many people. The people that go to the library use it for so many things. It takes care of kids. It takes care of our teens. We have incredible staff and fantastic programming. It increases the accessibility for so many of our residents. I mean, they just do a lot of really important things. And there's always opportunities to be better. I'm interested in how you guys think about sort of your vision, where you would like to be, if you could sort of give us any insight on that.
Felicia, if you just introduce yourself and.
Absolutely, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'm Felicia Odi, the Library Director, and with me today is Carly Keating, the Youth Services Librarian.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Okay. I could tell you the wish list, my wish list, which will include a trip to Bermuda with all of the staff, hardworking staff. You've seen how incredible they are. But yes, we do have one. And the reason you don't hear about the library is because it's within the context of the strategic plan. We have a 5-year strategic plan, and you already have outlined all the fantastic things that are going on in the library, because thank you, you use us, you know. Many people do not use us, and we are aware of that. We do a survey every year asking people, do you use us? If you do not use us, what would make you use us? Many people want us to come to them, because they are assisted living facilities in Franklin. They cannot come to us. Here is the problem. See, since we did the addition, our footprint has increased. As you are well aware, this budget is 0.6% down if we compare it to the town budget. Previous years were all 1%, sometimes we're a little over 1%. But our footprint has increased, staffing levels have remained stagnant, and our programming and productivity has skyrocketed.
I can give you a few examples. Circulation is up 33%. Programming, which is all Cali's doing, we moved from 30 programs a month to almost 121 programs a month. That's every month. That's what she puts out. In addition to that, she's in the schools. So there are school visits. They do weekly school visits in all of the schools, but
Oh, yeah. So we are in all 3 middle schools every single week. This is our BLAST program, which stands for Bringing Libraries and Students Together. So we start the year off with library card drives. So this is at Horace Mann, Annie Sullivan, and Remington. We've also expanded a little bit into the 5th grades at Keller and Oak Street, and are in talks with some of the other schools for next year, which we're really excited about. But yeah, we start with a library card drive, and then we actually come with a mobile library. We've got our scanner, we've got our laptop, and we bring carts of books for the kids. And it's just a great way to meet the middle schoolers where they are, in the cycle of extracurriculars and homework and all the other stuff going on. It's really great to meet them on their turf and kind of introduce ourselves and get them sort of, when you're younger, you're like in the cycle, you're in the weekly routine of coming to the library and story times and everything, but just kind of reintroducing ourselves and promoting a culture of reading. And then when they're teens, they remember us and they come back and do their volunteer hours, and we get to stay part of their lives. So it's pretty great.
So the library visits have increased 311%. Yesterday, if anybody was at the library, Kobe, I know you were, we had a health fair. Just in the 3-hour period where we ran that program, we had over 688 people come through. So it is very busy. Candy was working, I was working, everybody on staff, all hands on deck. So that's the thing when you have a small staff, is in that when you run these programs in the building, you have to have everybody at the ready to serve, because people do come. Summer is coming. It's our busiest time of the year, and I have to tell you that the building is already too small. Kali's going to run all of her programs outside, because you get 500 or more people, there is no way to fit them. The other good news is that Dean College has offered us their facilities. This summer will be the first time we test that, in the past when we had programs outside and it rained, then we had nowhere to go. Now we can use them as a backup, because they have huge auditoriums that will work well for the kinds of crowds she will be drawing this summer. This past year, which I expect to go up, attendance at programming was up. For adults, 68%. For children, 124%. And for teens, the group that we really are happy to see in the library, attendance at programs was up 934%. It shows that she is doing something right. But here is the problem. What is the wish list? What's in the strategic plan? We would love to have, we need more professional staff. This is a department of 2, and in all that she's doing, to ask any more will really, something is going to have to give. And for all of us who know Kali, if anything is going to give, we know it better not be her. So we need more people.
Right.
It should be a department of 5 really for all the work they do. And then we, with the strategic plan of taking the library really to the people where they are, we can really begin to write out the objectives and the task of how we do it. So in the strategic plan now, we say we will explore. We know where the people are because they've told us. They say, come to us, bring the programs to us, because sometimes we forget people don't have a means of getting to the library. So that's a plan. For us to do it, we're going to need more staff. We need more money for our collections. We need to keep expanding the collections and to keep the collections relevant and current all of the time. We have collections in 1 million different formats. That's where the people are. That's what the people want to see, and we are here to meet the needs of the people. We also do need to expand our hours. When we do these surveys, people tell us they want us to be open 7 days a week. We are almost there with a little bit bit more money, and planning down the road, as you say, the vision is to be open, to give our residents who work an opportunity also to enjoy some of our services and our programs. So that's a few. And of course, Jamie, we're going to need a bigger building down there. Yes. So,
Add to cart, check out.
Yeah. Councilor Frangillo.
Thank you.
That was incredible and powerful and very helpful to hear. We need a bigger pot. We need a bigger pot. And I feel myself getting emotional. You touched upon, man, we have so many people that do so much to make our town a better place. If I could duplicate one person in this town to have the largest marginal impact on making Franklin better, it would be Callie.
Yes.
And yeah, she does so much to.
It's true.
We need more money.
Yeah.
We need more money. We can make Franklin a much better place instead of overstressing the very few hard workers that we have.
Thank you, Councilor Frangillo. Jamie?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, just one thing that Felicia did not touch on that is another one of those success stories that I know she'll agree with. If we rewind back 5 years, Felicia?
Yeah.
Right, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years? Part-timers.
Yeah.
So when people are saying, wait, how are they getting all this done? One of the strategic ideas that Karen and the library and I have really put forward is the idea of, always we hear about health benefits as the problem, right?
Yeah.
That's the cost driver, and this is not any criticism of anybody else, but we have made that investment to say we need full-time folks. We need to invest in folks that have higher level education degrees, and we've done that, and now Felicia has a full-time, full staff. I think we definitely need more people, but I think over the last 5 years, I don't want to let it go unnoticed. How are they doing this? That has been a very, very critical piece to this. And all of the staff down there, I think, are exuberant with that policy change, and I think we've tried to do the best we can in collective bargaining. As everybody knows, some of the least paid people in this town were our library employees. And we have been able to make a significant change in that over the last several years. So I just want to make a note of those things that we have been chipping away at this issue slowly but surely over the last several years, and it's glad to see that the impact is there. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
All set, Councilor Frangillo. Councilor Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, through you to Jamie, refresh my memory a little bit, Jamie. I know it was probably around 8 years ago or something like that, where we started getting threats from the state if we weren't going to fund the library at an appropriate level. How are we today with this $1,092,000 as far as the state is concerned, with whether or not we're meeting their desired funding, appropriate funding?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, great question by Councilor Jones. I think, again, you're right. I think it's 5, 6 years ago, Felicia, maybe 5. 5. Before that, we were not hitting what's called MAR. I think that's what you're referring to, Councilor Jones. For 5 consecutive years, I still think it's 6, but maybe 5 consecutive years, we have hit that MAR number. But I think to Councilor Frangillo's point, and yours as well, that's the minimum. There's a little bit over, right? But basically, this is the number that satisfies us from not being on the waiver list in that class of communities we don't want to be in. And we've made that commitment, and we've been able to, importantly, sustain that commitment, right? And I think partly that's because of the transition in the part-timers to full-time staff, making sure we have enough in benefits to be able to cover those. And I think to Councilor Frangillo's point, and everybody, obviously Felicia's, hopefully in the next several years, by the end of the decade, if not sooner, we can try to lay the groundwork towards meeting those goals so that Callie will have more bandwidth and the rest of the staff to be able to do the amazing things that they're doing.
Yes.
I think that answered your question, Colin.
So, yeah, he did we've had five.
5 years. I'll go with 5 years. 6?
Yeah, and this will be the sixth.
This will be the 6th
This
year.
will be the
Okay,
sixth one.
okay. So that's close.
I
Okay,
remember that,
yeah,
yeah.
it's good not to have them breathing down our necks, 'cause I remember when Jeff was.
Well, they
retired.
penalize you.
Yeah.
It's
we
the
were
most,
getting
it's
hit.
ridiculous. I mean, the formula is like 100 years old, you know, it dates back to like, what, Felicia, 1888 or something like that. They've never modernized it, which on the one hand is a good thing and a bad thing. I think they could probably modernize it a little bit, but politically, that's very challenging to do.
Well,
But we've met that commitment and we do not have them breathing down our necks, Councilor
Good.
Jones.
Yeah, I remember that.
Because if my memory serves me right, my first budget, 2009, 10,
Yes.
2009,
Yeah.
2010,
Yes.
the library was probably only getting funded at approximately 250,000, maybe $220,000 a year.
Yeah, it was low.
Yes,
That's
absolutely
really
correct.
low for back then. One last question. If you could ask for a wish list or anything else that would make the library, other than adding more hours and more staff,
In another building.
in another building.
Yeah, Len. Remember last night's presentation?
If you could turn the library into what's already a wonderful wonderland, what else would you think would be a bonus to the library? Of course, other than the building. And we have a good chairman who's good at buildings, so.
One more?
He's got one.
She's
to the Bahamas.
Yes.
This is like pie in the sky,
Yeah,
maybe
that's
right
right.
now, but we're just gonna put it out there.
Yeah, let's hear it.
An outdoor play area for families. I mean, I think we've worked really hard to make the library space like a destination. I know throughout the day, we are sort of like a landing spot for family desperate mothers and caretakers. And you know, since we've moved our story times outside when the weather is nice, I don't have to compete with the weather anymore. Like when it's a nice day out, it's like you have to choose between story time and the playground. It's like come to both. But yeah, I've never said that out loud
No, that's
outside
good.
of the building. So
That's exactly what
that's
I was
yeah.
hoping to hear.
Yeah,
Great.
I think yeah. There's space. I don't know what it could look like, but that's my dream that I've never shared. So
That's great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Jones. Jamie, remind me to speak to you about just that issue
Yeah.
after the meeting.
Got it.
I have an idea. Councilor DeLarco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And this is more just a plug. I know that you guys do a great job, but just so, my nephew he's 51 and he lives in Hyde Park and he goes to many libraries. But it was about a month ago, it was the first time on a Saturday he went to your library. And he said it was one of the best libraries he ever went to. So I just wanted to give you that because he's like a library junkie. And the library in Hyde Park's brand new, and he thought your library was really good. So that's just a plug for you guys. He thought the staff was great, everything was great, so that's just a plug for you guys.
Thank you. Any other councilors?
Hi,
Councilor Sheridan.
I'm at the library all the time, as you know, with my family. And just one suggestion, I live in a neighborhood with some families who don't speak English. I wonder if you could get the programs in the different other languages, like Spanish or, just a list.
we actually have had in the past. We worked with the Spanish National Honor Society and the French National
Right.
Honor Society in past years to do bilingual story times. We weren't able to get them on the schedule as regularly,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, we'd love to.
I
do
mean,
that.
even just the list, because
ESL.
just the list of activities, so they know what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Right.
We'll do that.
Thank you, Councilor Sheridan. Councilor Cormier Ledger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being here. Just echo what everybody said. You do a great job. Beautiful facility, beautiful staff. So great to hear the numbers. Particularly great to hear about the collaboration with Dean. We all, keep hearing about their willingness to be more part of the community, and I'm glad to hear that you're taking them up on it. I would hope, this is more of a cross-departmental plug, but I would hope with some of the challenges that our friends on the school side are having with funding librarians in our schools, I hope maybe there's an opportunity for some collaboration with your team to bring some of those services to the kids until that problem can be figured out.
Yeah, that blast is sort of the first phase of that, for sure. It started with Horace Mann, with Erin O'Leary, the literacy specialist, just saying like, we don't have, our collections aren't, we just don't have the budget that we do to provide newer titles and, more buzzworthy collections. So that kind of blast was born from that sort of, just those conversations. And it was like, well, we can do that. We can swing. And it is, it has expanded. It's unwieldy, but we're having a lot of fun with it. We're making it work, and we're gonna, keep trying to see how we can get into more classes. We also do like book tastings. I am doing my summer reading hype tour right now, so we're trying to get into every single elementary school just to get in front of parents' eyes to be like, hey, look, you know how important reading is over the summer to prevent the summer slide. Schools want you to do it. We want you to do it, and we're gonna reward you for doing it with our really cool summer reading program, which we sort of built in-house this year, which we're really excited about. So sign-ups are on June 17th.
Thank you for that. Would there be a possibility, Jamie, for maybe some of our resident work-off programs for seniors? Like, could this be a volunteer opportunity where they could maybe do some librarian stuff at the schools in collaboration with Felicia and her team? Would that be a possibility?
I can't say no, but I'm trying to think of who would be the applicant to do that. We've offered the senior tax work-off program to the school district. I don't know if they've taken advantage of it. We'd have to just talk about that logistics of that and make sure,
Just trying to
that
think through solutions, but okay.
yeah, the appropriate, people that are interested in that are involved and stuff like that. But I think it's something that Callie's bobbing her head and looking at me and saying yes, so I'm going to say yes.
Everything's figure-outable, right?
That's right.
That's what we like to hear.
That's definitely what we like.
Okay, thank you very much.
Again, thinking outside the box, I love it.
Yes.
Councilor Chandler.
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Hi, ladies.
Hello.
You have a great staff, Felicia, you really do. And this council asked incredible questions on this one this way. I enjoyed that, so I'm glad I'm almost at the end here. But when I did hold it, it was basically for the numbers.
Okay.
Because as a department head, people need to know that you really are the unsung hero of the department heads, because when it comes to the numbers, your budget went down. I don't know if we can say that about anybody else, but you actually came in under. And we appreciate that. I don't know how you did it. I tried to look, but I'll have to come down and
People,
sit with you guys and figure that out. But thank you again for all that, and everybody really enjoys the library. It's that easy. Thank you.
we appreciate you guys.
Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Chandler. Any other councilors? I just have one, and I'll make it as short as I possibly can. Just a quick little story. I was meeting with the president of Dean, and President Elmore and I were talking about some different things, and he mentioned to me that he was in Boston at a seminar with all college presidents from all over, talking about their district, their colleges, and what things they have and what they don't have. And he told me, he stood up and he said, I have the oldest lending public library on my campus.
Wow.
And he said, I have a fence between us and them. 2 days later, the fence came down,
Oh, it's been great.
Yeah.
Yes.
and it's great.
That's
That's part of what I want to talk to you about after.
Yeah. They
That is
got
cool.
plenty.
Okay, is there anyone in council chambers that would like to, please?
It's a bit unusual, but Steve Sherlock, 10 Lawrence Drive, Franklin Mattis, Franklin Public Radio. Just to add to a couple of points, and one of the problems we do have is multiple calendars. And respectfully, their activity list on the calendar is so big, it can't fit into the community calendar that we do have. And respectfully, the other one is the senior center, because their activities are so big, they have separate calendars. So we start with the cultural district calendar, add the other community events, but excluding the library and the senior center, And then, obviously, the school meetings, town meetings are separate. So there's 5 calendars for people to really find out what's going on. People should just be aware of that. If you look on one calendar, it's not the whole story, because some of these departments are just so busy. The other piece we'll have to figure out, I know the town page has the option to translate, so there are multiple language options in that already. I have to make sure other sources of that, and from a radio, TV, communications perspective, that's another piece. I've already met with the Disability Commission to find out and make sure we can do more to create access to the information we create. So thank you for the translation mind as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Steve. Is there anyone else in council chambers with a question on Department 610 Library? Is there anyone out in Zoom land that has a question on 610 Library? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Next department held, 6:30, the Recreation Department. And I want to first, I held this department, and I want to apologize to Ryan because I know his son had a big game tonight, and he's here, and I held it because I think it's important for the community to hear what's going on at the Recreation Department. So, please.
Thank you, thank you. I'm Ryan Jetty, Recreation Director. Having the busiest year that I can remember in the 24 years I've been with the town. Our revenues continue to impress me even. You know, we're at about 565,000 before we even get into May and June, which is really a busy time for us during summer camp registration. We've signed up over 6,300 kids so far this year, so that's great. And we've got some great projects that we're working on right now with Nason Street, and as Brutus mentioned, Beaver Pond is upgraded, and we've got a few more on the horizon, so it's an exciting time for us. Happy to answer any questions anyone has.
Councilor DeLorco.
No, I just do this every year because I am on the recreational committee, but, and I see what he does all year long, along with all the youth sports. We have a real good youth sports organization here, and I'm at that meeting every month, and they're trying to make things better for the kids every time. And it's just pretty amazing. Like the King Street, we're gonna get lights down King Street. That's all. That's a lot of the recreational people helping out, doing all that stuff. That stuff goes unnoticed, and it shouldn't. But they're all ready to put money into it, ready to do it. That's awesome. And as far as I'm concerned, Ryan is the best one in the state. Best recreational director in the state, because he really cares for the kids and he wants to make sure that they get the best for their bang. And that's all I'm saying. I do it every year, Ryan. I bring you up every year just for that. But I would have let you go to your kid's game. I'm not like Tom.
I want you to know, we did call him today and give him the opportunity to
I wouldn't miss this.
Councilor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jamie, Mr. Chairman, through you to Jamie, correct me if I'm wrong, the Recreation Department is still the only budget line item that is actually self-funded through fee bases and everything else, correct?
That's correct.
That every single time.
It's actually a
Aside
little
the
more,
assessor.
it's a little more than recently. I think we've always said we're in that like 5% above, below. It's never exactly dollar for dollar. I mean, it's pretty darn close sometimes. And I think, just to Ryan, what he said, I think the key is continuing to be nimble and adapt to what the demands are. It's constantly changing programs for that, and I think the revenue and receipts back that up. But aside from the money piece, which is always important, think about the impact it has on obviously families and kids. So.
Without a doubt. Mr. Chairman, through you, just to Ryan, your total compilation of full-time staff is?
There's 3 of us.
There you go. Every time I hear that, it just blows my mind. Just the enormity of your programs, the diversity of the programs that you have, the variety of programs that you have, and the fact that you're self-funded line item on the budget every single time I hear that. And look back on such wonderful recreation facilities that we have throughout the town, and some of the really clever ideas that your group comes up with, from the kind donation from the Boston Bruins with the park over at Fletcher Fields, to the different types of playgrounds and stuff that we have around the community. It's just such an amazing thing to see.
Yeah, we have a great team. Again, I can't do it all by myself,
without a
so
doubt.
with Kim and Sean and Sheila in the office, they do a great job. And really, we utilize so many volunteers. I mean, most of our coaches are volunteers, and they do such a great job. And I don't want to take credit for all the great things that are happening in town. We're kind of the hub that kind of orchestrate it all, and we just have a lot of great people helping out, so.
And you're right, I want to thank the volunteers too. I was a volunteer soccer coach when my kids were little, and it's true, a lot of parents. Hey, I learned a lot about soccer, especially how parents can be on the sideline, Mr. DeLongo.
Well, at one time, we had 5,000 kids involved in youth sports.
Yeah.
The numbers have gone down because of the club sports, and a lot of kids are going elsewhere, but the numbers are still great, and we just get a lot of great interdepartmental help too. The DPW helps us out a lot. We couldn't do it without them, so kudos to those guys.
That's great. And by the way, I have to also bring, where's Bree? Is she here today?
She's not.
You didn't have to come.
I love the videos that you and her put together for the recreation and open space portion of what's going to ultimately be that part of the master plan. The outreach, the public input, and all the efforts that you both have put into making that possible. That's probably going to be a big part of the master plan. It's actually going to set the groundwork for the master plan too. So thank you for all that hard work.
Thanks.
In addition, the collaboration with the schools and the athletic department at the schools. That coordination and collaboration is really a great thing. It's a win-win for everybody. Councilor Sheridan.
Hey, Ryan. Thanks for Nason Street. The neighbors are all excited about opening it up. And the last time we talked, you talked about beginning machinery, rent canoes at some of the lakes, if you paid.
Hydro raking?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're working on that right now. We're doing
Okay.
a notice of intent. Brooke down at DPW is helping us get that put together.
Great.
So this summer, we'll be doing that.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Councilor Hamblin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Another thing, Ryan, is the community garden. I didn't even mention that you take care of. And I want to thank you for that. You do a lot of work. Your staff is always helpful. I'm just wondering if you have any more CPA ideas for some really cool projects out there. I'm sure you're thinking about them. I was wondering if you could tell us about a couple. He probably has enough for the next 20 years or something.
Well, as everybody knows, Nason Street was our first CPA project, $300,000 for that.
That's very exciting.
Yeah, and we have a couple that are actually on the second half of this meeting, which we're looking to improve, put a new scoreboard down at Beaver Pond, press box for the high school teams. Looking at redoing the Fletcher Field playground, making that ADA accessible. Right now, it has wood chips. We'd like to put in the pour-in-place rubber and add some new equipment. And then, there's a laundry list. King Street Memorial Park, we have a whole bunch of things we'd like to do down there, adding on to pickleball, new building for the summer camp. And then Dacey Community Field needs a new playground. That's starting to age. So, just looking down the road, I see a lot of things that are starting to deteriorate. A lot of these things that I did 20 years ago that are now having
Need to
do it,
update them.
redo them again,
Great.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Mr. Chairman.
Councilor. Thank you, Councilor Hamblin. Any other councilors? Is there anyone out in the council chambers that has a question or comment for Department 630 Recreation? Is there anyone out in Zoom land?
Hi, in Zoom land. I was there live last night, but it was a little stuffy.
That's my track coach right there.
Please, name and address,
Rec
please.
department for making up for all the middle school level sports and programs that the public schools can't offer because they don't have enough money. Thank you.
Thanks for everything you do, Stacy.
Jamie, I think we have some people online that can't get in.
I think there's one waiting, yeah.
I want to say hi.
Oh, I think, is there anyone else in Zoom land that has a question or a comment? Ryan, thank you very much. And once again,
Thank you, Ryan.
thanks for
Celtics
all,
are on, by the way.
thanks for all you do. What's the score?
Just start.
Okay, and we'll move on. The last item held was 695 Cultural Council, and Councilor Jones held that.
It was just a really quick question, Mr. Chairman, through you to the town administrator. Just the increase of, percentage-wise, it's a considerable increase. Money-wise, it's a ridiculously small money. But it, like the same question I had with the council, why almost double? Just.
For the cultural council? Yeah, through Mr. Chairman. So at least, it's been trying to work on this for a couple of years, and just trying to get a couple things in there. One, I do think it's appropriate that if we're looking at having a town-sponsored cultural festival, I know that a lot of folks and volunteers like the energy of going out and raising funds and soliciting funds and fundraise, whatever people want to do. In my view, while the cost doesn't come up fully here, I think this is something that obviously the community has to keep an eye on in the future, and at least put some level of funding and seed money into it to relieve the volunteers, in my view, from having to go out and do all that. It's just a lot of work, and it's thankless work, and it's tough work to fundraise. I know when you're successful, it's great, but it's really tiring. And number two, but however, without the cultural festival for this year, if the budget's approved, obviously a public arts director would oversee a lot of this in future years. But I think it's no secret that the Cultural Council frequently gets double, triple, or more grant requests every year. And, I think, and the fact that a lot of these grants are $500, $200, $800, they're small amounts. But for those of you that have been to the award ceremony or talked to the folks that apply or been to the Cultural Council meetings, not just the last 2 years, but like the last 10 years, even when Stacy David chaired the committee, you could just feel a lot of the excitement of that $800. If you feel like you're giving them $800,000 oftentimes, with the excitement. And so this is just a small investment to kind of wedge it into the tax levy, kind of permanently, and making that kind of value statement that we need to kind of, up that amount a little bit. It's kind of goes along with the theme of the town administrator's budget proposal, which is really trying to make sure that everybody's kind of getting some sort of slice of the pie, to make sure that with the competing demands that we heard from last night, that everybody's kind of getting a little bit of something. Obviously, I didn't anticipate, this budget came out, I believe, right around when it was announced the cultural festival wasn't going on, but I've made the case, I hope, that even in absence of that, I'm pretty sure the Cultural Council can use the additional funds to give out more grants. So I think we heard about this also a little bit on the arts tour, not as much, but I think most of you have heard things about this through the last several years. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, this also gives me an opportunity to bring up the fact of the unfortunate fact that the cultural festival isn't returning this year. That's really, really disheartening. That was a really well-received event last year. I was very impressed with the amount of work that went into that and how it was well-received by the communities and communities, because we had people from all over Massachusetts and Rhode Island come up to the cultural festival that year. I know Kay Kelly had stepped down as the chair. I had hoped that there would have been something this year. It's unfortunate that there's not, but I do hope that this could be resurrected through volunteerism and through additional support from the town and the community as a whole to potentially bring this back, because it was really a wonderful event. And anything we can do to support the cultural council and, of course, culture in the community this is the least that we can do. So that's about it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Jones. Any other questions or comments, Councilor Cormier-Ledger?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's just really more of a comment. Having sat on the Cultural Council for a couple of years, I can say the need is there, and it's nice to see the dollars that get put forth from the town to support the arts. We get some state money that comes in for grants, but to be able to show the state that there's local contribution, that we're not just allocating state funds, is very important. And that money, whether it's going to help the festival or going to maybe boost some other grant requests. I mean, I remember one year we had 65 grant requests that we were looking through, and we had to turn down about half the applicants because there just wasn't the funding. So it'd be nice to slowly chip away at that. And one of the great things to sort of talk about collaboration again with our schools is many of our schools applied to the Cultural Council for grants for music programs to come to the school and perform, or artists to come to the schools and perform. So I think as we're talking about ways to maybe solve some of the issues in front of us, I think that should be encouraged, and whatever help we can give to those folks in the schools to write those grants for the committee to look at, I think we should do that. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Cormier-Ledger. Any other councilors? Is there anyone in council chambers that has a question on 695 Cultural Council? And is there anyone out in Zoom land? And yes, there is. Kay, if you just unmute yourself and name and address, please.
Hi, Kay Kelly, 5 Calistoga Way in Franklin. I just wanted to chime in and say thank you. I didn't realize that I'm no longer with the Cultural Council, but the extra 10,000 certainly can be used. Every year I think the year that Ted was in the Cultural Council, we did have 60. It was the year before the pandemic, and that's then it went much lower, and we're regaining again. I think we might have had 40 this year, and certainly we did turn some down. And also, as the cultural district becomes more and more organized, there's a lot of funding to be given out to them. That was something we dealt with this year in terms of making sure everybody there got a piece of the pie. That was definitely a big part of our conversation this year. So I just wanted to say thank you. And in terms of the festival, we are just calling it an intermission. I am the reason we're not having a festival. I couldn't do it, and it's kind of a one-woman show often, and it is a full-time job. It's once one is over, you start for the next one. So until we can regain the volunteers that we need, hopefully that will be this year. Hopefully it's just an intermission. I agree, it was well received, and had so much to offer the town. I think it's a really important piece of us moving forward, highlighting diversity, just coming together as a community. So I do hope it's something that we can come back to. And this year I do think the cost of the festival got close to 50, which was not. But I think we started at 20 for the first year. It did creep up quite a bit, but certainly that $10,000, it does help. I was the person having to go out and try to get donations by selling flowers, and trying to put a festival on and doing that was just way too much, way too much. So even just knowing, I think Jamie just called it seed money, it is a huge help. So thank you for considering that for the future.
Thank you, Kay. Okay. Is there anyone else in Zoom land that would like to speak on 695 Cultural Council? Okay, seeing no one, that concludes all of the held departments. So at this juncture, we are required to have 2 public hearings on the annual budget. So I will declare the continuation of the first public hearing on FY24 Town of Franklin budget closed. And now I declare the second public hearing on the FY '24 Town of Franklin budget open. And we're going to do this a little bit differently because we're not necessarily required. So we are not going to go line item by line item, department by department. I'm going to reach out to the council and ask the council if they have any questions of any departments that were not asked last night that they would like to ask during this second public hearing is when I'd like you to ask them. So I'm just going to go kind of right down the row here. So Councilor Cormier Ledger, do you have any questions of any departments?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, yesterday you had made a question to the school department, which I think went unanswered. Are we covering that now?
Well, I was going to, but
no,
that's okay. No, it's fine.
I-
And I think the schools might have a few questions, so Lucas, if you and Miriam want to please come forward.
Hello again.
Welcome. Doesn't it seem like we were just...
It doesn't seem that long ago.
So Councilor Cormier Ledger,
I believe the question, Lucas, yesterday was about the reserves and, you know, sort of the balance and the plan for it going forward in your budget.
So revolving?
Yeah, it was the revolving question where I asked what it was at the end, what it will be at the end of FY '23, and then I stepped out and said, what would it be? What do you project it to be for FY '24? Didn't expect you to have the answer.
We're prepared to
obviously.
answer that today.
Sure.
So
Thank you.
Miriam.
The FY '23 revolving accounts anticipate ending in somewhere in the $8.1 million range right at this point. And that's not including food service. Food service is self-sustaining, so they don't support the budget. They don't contribute towards the budget with the exception of health insurance, which they, as of last year, were able to afford. And the FY '24 year end is anticipated to be about $5.9 million. We have $7.1 million anticipated to be used towards the FY '24 budget. And we will also pick up about $4.5 million, $4.7 million in FY '24, which would bring us to a balance of $5.9 million.
Okay, and I guess that was where I was headed with the question, was obviously what of that $8 million did you project to use in your FY '24 numbers? And what I'm understanding, if I understood what you said, the net is kind of like $3 million would be the change from FY, because you said 8 million
Yes.
and then 5 million.
Correct.
So you're using roughly 3 million during,
That fiscal year.
sure, go ahead. For that particular year.
For the purposes of the public listening and for everybody here, can you just help us understand how that fund gets money? Like, is that?
It's
is that-
multiple.
I mean, well,
Sure.
I'm sure it's complicated, but I think people ask us that all the time, and I don't know how to answer.
Start from the beginning.
Yeah, so revolving accounts are established through Mass General Law, and you approve their balances on an annual basis, the maximum balances on an annual basis. They are fee-based accounts, so money is charged to participants for a fee for whatever the activity might be, whether it's athletics or partaking in a before or after-school program through lifelong learning, or an extracurricular activity, or transportation, things like that. So the money goes into those particular revolving accounts. They're not commingled. The total that you got was a total of all of them. There are major revolving accounts that contribute towards the budget, and there are some that don't contribute towards the budget that pay for services on a regular basis, like food service, for example, like lifelong learning, which contributes a very small portion towards the administrative expenses that we do as that the Franklin Public Schools supports the program for. But overall, the fees that are collected for those programs have to be used to cover the expenses for those programs. Does that help?
Yes, but I think you also said that some of that money was now going to be put in to support the budget for FY '24?
Yes.
Correct, so.
In those categories.
So, but it's basically only supporting the categories within the revolving, like that doesn't really go over to help, say, teacher salaries or something like that. I just want to understand, because what I've heard from folks, which I think is inaccurate, when they say there's an $8.1 million surplus in the school budget, that's not an accurate statement, right?
That's correct. That's not an accurate statement in that the surplus is not in the school budget. You set the budget on an annual basis, and whatever we get is what we spend, or whatever might not be, might remain unspent at the end of the fiscal year would fall to free cash and go into the town's general fund at the end of the year. The revolving accounts revolve from year to year. The money raised in those accounts is used to offset particular line items within the budget. There are examples where a revolving account could be used to fund salaries. One is at the preschool. We collect tuition from parents to pay for preschool services, for preschool classrooms, and we use the funds from that revolving account to support teaching staff, therapeutic staff, and supplies and materials when there might be a need for a new classroom. And we do that through the reclassification process through the school committee. So the school committee is aware of what is coming into the account and what they are reclassifying from the charges from the budget to the revolving account.
Okay, and my second question, in fiscal year '23, how many vacancies did we have as a school department?
At the beginning of the year, we had far more vacancies. We filled some of them over the course of the year. I can't tell you exactly how many there are right now. I can tell you that there are quite a few paraprofessional vacancies that remained unfilled. Some of the positions were filled just this year with folks from an agency when we weren't able to fund positions, and they, unfortunately, that was at a much greater cost. And we don't generally look to fill positions with agency staff. But when we post a position multiple times and can't find a qualified candidate to fill that position, we still need somebody in front of students or nursing services on a van or whatever that need might be.
So are you anticipating when FY '23 closes that the salary line will then send quite a bit of money to free cash for unfilled vacancies, or no? Like, has that money been spent because you had to hire part-time staff or expensive contract staff? I just want to understand the, kind of how that all works.
Sure, so whatever salary line items might have availability, some of those funds will get transferred to cover the cost of the contracted services through those agencies. I might be paying an agency $80 an hour for a therapist, whereas if I employed that therapist, it might be at a much lower rate. So I've budgeted for a full-time therapist for salary that I now have to pay potentially quite a bit more to an agency to cover that cost.
If I might help, just to maybe cut to the chase a little bit, I think where the question might be headed is, let's say the last 3 years, has there been a surplus that has gone back to free cash?
Generally, we try to minimize the surplus, going back to free cash.
Right. So minimal, if any,
Yes.
And you should.
We try to spend the budget that you allocate. to us.
And I totally understand that,
Sure.
but I didn't want people to be confused that there was money going back to free cash. There's a bottom line item.
Yeah, no, and I
Certainly, we would spend it, or you should spend it,
no,
for
and
sure.
I certainly appreciate that, Mr. Chairman.
Not looking to leave money on the table.
No, and nor
None of us are.
nor
sure.
should you. And this, I think we sort of have to touch on the elephant in the room while we have you both here, because you alluded yesterday to some pink slips that went out, and obviously we're getting calls and emails about people that found out that they no longer have a job with the school come the end of the year. So Lucas, can you talk a little bit
I can give
to that, and who was affected, and maybe what the plan is should some state money come? Like, will this be some of those people can be hired back, or, I think the public is looking for that information too, but I think it'd be very helpful for us.
I can share broadly, just as you heard yesterday, we had to non-renew 24 staff members. 10 were involuntary transferred due to just movement due to contractual seniority. So that happened on Wednesday before, obviously, this meeting. Out of respect for the individuals, I certainly can't get into like who and what.
No, we
but
don't
certainly,
need
I don't think
names,
you're asking me that either,
positions.
Mr.
No, would be
Cormier. I
great.
don't think so. The second part of your question was if we received any kind of funding to come back, would we bring back staff? The answer is, yeah, we would look to bring back some of our staff. I think there were some positions within that were enrollment driven. So I wouldn't want to be on record of saying every single thing that we analyze the budget every year. We look at what is working, what are we doing. This particular budget put us in a real deeper cut than I think that we want to be in for the services that we hope to provide. But every year, we look at what our contracts are, what enrollment is driving as far as positions that we need, and this year we had to dig a little deeper. So certainly there would be positions that we would look to bring back from that, absolutely.
And the students that we heard from yesterday, and obviously the parents that we heard from yesterday, concerned about future program cuts, particularly in the arts and the music. Can you, because unfortunately you didn't get the opportunity to talk too much last night because it got late and time went over, but if you could talk a little bit, and maybe you can't give them assurances, but maybe you could talk about a plan, or just kind of be able to answer some of those students and parents.
Sure. So, and I've been emailing, I think I've copied a few of you on
Yeah.
certain
No,
emails.
we
I've been trying to
appreciate
get
that,
to emails in the order in which they come. I sound like one of those telemarketer. But I've really tried to send a personal email back to folks. I share an interest in trying to preserve our programs that we have. Unfortunately, I'm in the position that we have to make tough decisions, and I'm not into performative moves or measures like I know Mr. Chandler used the word threaten yesterday about I'll use for football. Certainly not interested to throw out things that we're not serious about doing. We look at our enrollment first, and we try to say, if we're going to field a team, how many people do we need to do the work to educate students? Unfortunately, I think for music, it's a very supportive community, just like athletics, just like our we have a very supportive community in Franklin that's looking out for every interest. And I would just tell you that our goal is not to remove programming, whether it's during school or after school, but there were some, beyond just music, I would say, I mentioned 24 people were non-renewed, and they weren't all obviously from the music department. Unfortunately, in smaller departments, I think it's felt differently. I think over time, if I look at our budget development, and I know it's my first year at Super, but I've been in this town for 20 years besides 3. So I've worked 17 years, and I was a teacher on the block my first year, in this. I remember my name on a board somewhere around. I was about to have a non-renewal call, and it didn't happen that way. And, but I've seen over years, us, meaning people in my position or staff that are connected to us, have to look at our enrollment and say if we have to field a classroom, academic classroom, and I think I value music just as much. And we have to look at the schedule and how we're educating kids and what's required, and it gets really difficult. And I say that with all sincerity. So I would say to the music folks, you know, I'm cognizant of the impacts that this budget has on our programming, and it's not our intention to try to cut programs for the sake of cutting them or whatnot. And I think as a parent, my own child is heavily involved in our music program, heavily. My other child's into athletics and in the athletic program. I'm living this day to day. I use the public library. I love it.
Yeah.
You know, so I just would point to those, but this is tough, and I think I mentioned it yesterday, and I think I've heard it shared. There's a finite amount of money in which we're working with, and my advocacy is around, you know, what we need to do the job, and with the funding we have, we're unfortunately at a place where we have to look to where do we want to prioritize our resources to do the job, but it's not enough to do the job the way it should be done.
All set, Councillor?
Yes,
Cormier-Ledger?
thank you, thank you.
Any other questions while the schools are here? Let's deal with those. So, Councillor Frangillo.
Great, yeah, thank you. We asked you a lot, and we talked a whole bunch about schools yesterday, and it was a great conversation, and we were able to talk about the values and really make the case that there are some longer term needs, and then there's some immediate opportunities to make sure that this year's budget better reflects the values of the town. We talked a lot about from a sort of high level, but there was also some sort of feelings that we were dancing around some things, and I wanted to give you the opportunity to really address some of the questions that I seem to be hearing and that maybe haven't been fully. Some of them were just asked, right? That idea of, you know, do we have a surplus? The idea of what happens when we have vacancies? What do we do with that money? I have two more for you that I just wanted to sort of ask you a little more directly. One, and I think you sort of just touched upon it to some extent, is this feeling that it was sort of my first fear of yesterday, or my first two, that the budget and the sort of historic budgets of the past few years, and now the sort of expected personnel costs of the next few years, that they're unsustainable in terms of they're larger than the amount of money that we bring in. Now, you know that I agree, and I think we all agree, that we need to fund our schools more, right? At the end of the day, we're at the bottom 20% of funding. But there are a few ways to do that. One is to go out and start spending and then ask for the money, and the other is wait until you have the money and then start spending. Now, a lot of this, you're new, right? A lot of this you inherited. But I was wondering if you could speak at all to that notion of sustainability of the current budget and how you sort of sit and think about that.
I'll just start by addressing, I understand it's been made very clear to me, the consternation on the teacher contract. Whether people agree or not, the decision to bargain with the teachers in good faith occurred. The decision was made and to support the teachers based on the 30 hours or so of sitting at the table and bargaining, and it ended with that agreement, which included adding some evaluation responsibilities to the staff, and it involved a couple of other things. related to advisory and whatnot. I understand I can understand from a perspective from the perspective of folks that you're referring to, around that, and it's clear, the messaging's been made clear to me throughout the year since I've taken this job about that. It's probably the thing that I hear the most. I would say that when we developed our budget for this year, in my original superintendent's budget, I baked in, based on our, what we knew of resignations and what we knew of retirements and whatnot, had baked in $1 million in reductions off the bat. And as a way of saying, we're preparing a budget, we're actually trying to look at our numbers, and we're not just coming to say more, more, more. The second thing that we did, I look back, and Mr. Helen had referenced this yesterday, we asked for what we felt was a reasonable increase that was lower than 4 of the 5 last year's budget requests. So if you go back and look, and those 2 actions were in an effort to say, one, we were looking at, and I can only speak from my experience and what I can't speak for, I'm not going to be able to answer questions that I can't answer, and I don't think that's fair. But I will say, the idea of trying to keep an organization going with the number one thing we know is having high quality people in any of we want the best. I don't want to call out any other department and get in trouble, but I think we want the best in any department that we have, and we've been fortunate to do that. And I think that was the attempt of saying, hey, listen, we're trying to do this for the right reasons. So that's how that came to be, in my opinion, and I understand that there's strong feelings about this.
No, that was really helpful, and I think that we're certainly not going to address it all here, and I hope that we really do use that joint budget subcommittee to sort of work through these, sort of the more detailed pieces. But at some point, we're in the situation we're in now, and we as a community need to figure out what it is that we value and how we want to reflect that in our budgets from here on forward. But I appreciate you for being transparent and addressing that a little more head on. The second thing that sort of question that I hear thrown around is when we talk about efficiencies. One of the most common ones that comes up is looking at facilities, needed facilities to house the number of expected students. Now, I know we just did a facilities study, and that ended in a recommendation to do a facilities master plan. I was wondering if you could sort of talk to how you look at that as a possible opportunity for some efficiencies.
Yeah. So just to recap, we did do a redistricting analysis, and it was based on a few factors. The first was to look at, we had closed Davis Thayer and moved the entire school population to the Keller Elementary. In addition, we hadn't done a redistricting analysis in some time, probably since 2002, if I'm recalling correctly. And the charge was to conduct the analysis, which I feel that we did, and we did it comprehensively. We had a report that came out after the Davis Thayer closure from Kessel Booz, which had some facilities. It was a facilities assessment analysis. It had recommendations that they put forth, and it talked through, one, engage in an analysis, two, it had a 10-year plan that looked ahead to kind of what could happen in the future. At the end of the redistricting analysis, what we determined was, well, the vote was that based on the information had, it seemed like a longer-term plan and a vision for analyzing each of our facilities and really trying to look at, the idea of repair, renovation, sustainability, age, life of school, whole thing. We've heard a lot about different renovations yesterday at different buildings, and that was part of my recommendation in the analysis was, this is the stage then. If we're not moving kids yet because we don't want to do this twice. We'd already moved to families, and then to move them again without a long-term plan did not seem like the right move, and it felt like a vision needs to be developed on what does the future hold for Franklin Public Schools. With that said, when we analyze space and we look at it, we know that that report did not include the way we utilize specialized programs. So I'll just use an example. Jefferson Elementary has 6 classrooms dedicated to our specialized programs, which allows us to educate our students in district. I know we've talked about this. I've sat in the chair when other supers have been here, and we've talked through the moral benefit of keeping kids within town, but there's also an opportunity to educate and pay our own employees to educate our students within our district, which and transport them within our district, which has benefits and savings. So that's just one example of when you take 6 classrooms offline, that's not accounted for when you do. So we needed to do a deeper dive. There are recommendations at the back of that book. We've looked at those. I think there are a lot of different scenarios that they have played out. One of them was the Davis Thayer closure. There are other scenarios in there which include building new schools. I'm hesitant to throw that out here right now because I know the Tri-County, and I'm not here to advocate for a school on top. After what I went through yesterday, I'm not asking for a school tomorrow. But at the end of the day, there are a lot of different things that need to play out as far as really analyzing our district and what are our needs. And just to really hit on one last point was when we look at enrollment, for example, right now we have 2,056 elementary.
Just about.
Yeah. And it'll drop to 2010, so 2010. The next year it goes to 2,000. And then it's projected, based on the McKibben report, to jump back up to 2,065. So within 2.5 to 3 years, we're going to have the same number of kids we have today in elementary school. You'll see your middle school decline, and then that will move forward. And one of the factors is our ECDC was projected to have 111 kids just stagnantly. We're at 160 today. So actually, we're probably more than 140. Right
Yeah,
around
right
that.
now, right around 160.
I'm a street math, I'm just kidding. But I think when we start to, these are just parts of the analysis that took place that I share with you as just ideas around where the information that's in my head, and sometimes the sound bites I hear when I'm at the park or a library or whatnot, I try to engage the community with some of those pieces, and I think as part of my charge as we move forward, I'm hopeful to finish my first year in the superintendency, is around just trying to be transparent, communicative as possible on some of these ideas and where we move forward. But I'm certainly not in the place to predict or make decisions without really having a real handle on what is the future of our schools. And I'm also not an engineer who can analyze our facilities to the level they need to be done to make informed decisions.
There's nothing that makes us happier than a strategic plan to find opportunities for savings, so that's great. I'll close just with a statement, because a few people got to name it yesterday, but I think part of why I'm optimistic that we will be able to get to the place that we want to get to on all services, but particularly our schools, is I'm very optimistic about and appreciative of what you're bringing to the table. I think you're thoughtful and communicative and patient and caring and accessible, and so I'm excited to work together. I'm as concerned as everyone about the loss of Miriam, who has done so much for our community, but I really do feel good that we're pretty close to getting to the place that we want to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Frangillo. Councilor Sheridan.
Yeah, I second those comments about you personally. Thank you. And a couple of questions you got from panels. Could you explain at home, like the timeline for pink slips? Why did it happen yesterday? Is it?
So the timeline for pink slips, we're contractually obligated to notify teachers by June 15th. That is the deadline to do that. We obviously aim to do that sooner.
Right.
We need to have information in order to do that. When the town administrator put out his recommended budget, that gives us a number, that the town allocation that's recommended gives us a number like every other district as a point of, we have a number, now let's work within our means for, we know what we requested, but we have an idea. Knowing that there could be flexibility, but at that point you have a line in the sand. Our timing, I've been doing this for 20 years in education. I know that the timing and cycle of our budget development process in our town is definitely later than some of the other communities in which I'm a part of. Just an example, I was at a meeting on Monday. I'm on the board of directors for the Accept Collaborative. When I was walking out, we had 5 or 6 superintendents from Natick, Medfield, Millis, Medway, and I was saying, hey, I have my town, and they're like, oh, your town, what's going on? So they have a different trajectory and cycle. So they'll get their number sometime November, December, and then they build a budget. They have to submit it by January. They have school committee approval February, and then by March they voted. So they're letting their employees know before the April break. And you may notice that sometimes in the paper it'll say like, this town is laying off 17 people, and you'll hear that like in February. I know I got nervous because I said, wait a minute, how do you know your number? And it comes from knowing your allocation at a timing. So the way in which that trajectory works, the piece that you didn't ask me, but since I have the mic, I'll say, is I think when we are in 2 scenarios, one, in a good budget year, we would be landing our budget and then have about a month with our staff to try to make sure we have our team squared away and plan for the next year, right? Effectively plan and try to get ahead. In a bad budget season, like the one where we've experienced now, the 30, 40 hours I've spent with my leadership team with additional meetings to try to make sure we figured out who are these 24 people and why, and what do we have to support this decision. We're spending that time now. So we had the interim school business administrator do an interview, and he had talked about how he had finished, the budget was settled in April, and then they've been doing a lot of strategic planning. So they know kind of where they're going to be. They've laid off who they need to. They're hiring the people we let go today, but they're planning for the year, and I think that definitely puts, from a bandwidth standpoint, I think it does definitely have, it does have an impact. So I know you didn't ask for that whole thing, but thank you for asking.
All set. Any other questions of the schools? Councilor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. He's like, enough already. But I get one of the golden nuggets from one of my apprentices today. One of my favorite lines from students is, so Mr. Jones, what do you do all summer? Nothing. I'm going to sit on the beach all day. It's not what teachers do. We spend most of the time planning and making lesson plans and everything else. Quick question, and I know I brought this guys up to earlier, is what can you do, or what can the school committee do to reach out to their legislators, up to the Department of Ed, and ask them if they can address unfunded mandates? What can be, how can this be tackled? And can it be tackled? I know we face unfunded mandates on a town level, like from the feds and from the state and anything like that, but what can the schools do? What can the school committee do to address this up to the state and say, listen, enough already. We have increasing spending, special education cost. We have increasing inflation just like everyone else. Can you give us a break and back off on a few of these programs?
I can tell you we've been trying to do that for the last 25 years.
I'm sure.
Jamie, you want to?
Yeah. Through you, Mr. Chairman, not to take anything away from the superintendent. There are mandates that are unfunded, and they're called unfunded mandates for a reason. The mandates are usually generally set into law because there's a value or a principle or a stakeholder group that is basically said this is really important, and then it's subject to appropriation. And historically, again, nobody needs to take this as a critique. I know people are a little sensitive these days. This is not exactly something against any individuals. This is a systemic problem that's been going on in Massachusetts for decades, and it is going to continue for decades. My best suggestion is that if the school district or the community at large is really focused on an unfunded mandate, something like out-of-district tuition placement, the $93 million, there needs to be a grassroots, there needs to be a vote of the school committee or some sort of letter. The council, for example, is sending one to the federal delegation tonight regarding PFAS and their concerns. You need to stay on this over and over and make sure Representative Roy and Senator Roush know about these things. I think the superintendent, myself, and others go to the State House often for lobbying days. We try to make our presence known. I just want to set everybody's expectations that they're highly, highly unlikely to get substantial impact on the unfunded mandates. They're unfunded for a reason. They're state and state law for a reason. And oftentimes, the bad news is that usually local districts or communities have to pick up the difference. And everyone goes through this in a different way, like regional school transportation, for example, in regional school districts, it's not always fully funded.
Right.
And people, obviously, have a tough time with that. So I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news. I just want to say on behalf of everybody in the community, including the school district, they're incredibly challenging to fix. And I oftentimes would say, my last comment, Mr. Chairman, is other than letters, or if the school committee feels very passionately, or the council, generally the return on investment for your time lobbying on that stuff is usually very low. You don't usually get a good return on your investment for the amount of hours and time put into trying to fix them. And the best example is the out-of-district placement right now. It's just obviously, for whatever reasons, it's just not a priority on Beacon Hill. So, I would just lay that out there really quickly on behalf of all, because we have them too, right?
Absolutely.
We all deal with it.
And the Senate just passed their, budget. Just saw it pop up. And again, having sat in a seat a bunch of years ago, we had the same issues back then. This is not anything new. The unfunded mandates that not only from the state, but from the federal government. And, just this, the special ed mandates, there are federal special ed mandates that don't get funded. And then there are state special ed mandates that supersede the federal mandates that don't get funded. But I applaud the Franklin school system for many, many years working so hard on the collaboratives and the inclusionary piece, and trying to educate some of these special ed students and requirements within the system. And on top of that, and this brings me way back, when the charter school first came into existence, and things I'm sure are a little bit different now, but back then, if there was a special needs student that wanted to go charter school, well, we don't have that. We don't have that class or the ability to work. So, right back to the public schools. So the charter schools were getting the better piece and not having to deal with the unfunded special ed mandates. So it's something that's been gone on forever, and I don't disagree with Jamie. Letters have been sent year in, year out, and
Good luck.
it just falls on deaf ears, unfortunately. Doesn't mean we shouldn't advocate and continue to advocate to get some of these unfunded mandates, just like the one we're dealing with now, that hopefully will come back. But so anyway, I think the school department does a very good job of trying to deal with a lot of these unfunded mandates, and by working within the system.
Just to follow up, and I think Mr. Helen mentioned the OSD, the private school tuition.
Yeah.
I know he mentioned yesterday, we sent a letter with the support of the school committee. I then joined our local area regional superintendents to all sign on a letter, and one endorsed by the Massachusetts Association for School Superintendents. And the final thing, we held a breakfast in Newton at the Soldier, I forget the name of the location, where it was school committee chairs and superintendents, and we had our local reps attend the breakfast, and it was all about OSD and the hike, and we collaborated on a document which showed each district, they hit to us, they hit to Newton, they hit to this school, whatever, and I thought it was an opportunity for us to kind of jointly present and get the right people in the room. That's to Jamie's point, the return on the amount of time to write those letters and sign on that and go to Newton and present and do that. Certainly, we did the steps that we should do for this particular example, but it remains to be seen what will happen with that.
But it doesn't mean that we shouldn't, again.
Right.
Advocate, and we can send a letter as a council, school committee can send letters as school committee,
And citizens.
and citizens,
You know,
absolutely.
folks out here have been hearing about this issue and we all know representatives do a fantastic job listening to these folks out here and the folks at home. As you learn about these issues, I always remind people, you don't have to write a complicated email. It can be one sentence. I want you to prioritize whatever issue. And it's as simple as that, as Councilor Frangillo has learned, working for the state rep, right? It doesn't need to be some expert written thing. It just needs to be a quick email over to the state rep so they know that this is something that's impacting the town in a big way.
You all set?
Yes, sir.
Any other questions of the schools? Councilor Pellegrini?
Through you, Mr. Chair, about the revolving account. You said that there's 8-point-something. Can any of that money, and I know you said it has to go for certain things, but then if it was left over, it would go to free cash. Before it would go to free cash, is there money there that you would be able to use to supplement your budget this year?
So we do use revolving funds to supplement our budget. Revolving funds don't fall to free cash. The only funds that fall to free cash are funds that are appropriated by this council that are unspent at the end of the fiscal year by the school department. So those funds would fall to free cash. We do use, we are using, anticipating to use $7.1 million of revolving funds to support the FY24 budget.
Okay. All right, well, that's good to know. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilor Pellegrini.
Used.
Any other questions from the council? Is there anybody in council chambers that has a question for the schools?
No, another one. Steve Sherlock, 10 Lawrence Drive, Franklin Matters, Franklin Public Radio. Historical perspective. Stepping back to 2007, in November of that time frame, and funding issue arose that resulted in a joint meeting in, if I remember correctly, February, either end of January, early February in 2008, where it was the only time in my years of reporting, and it was the first time we were doing this, where a joint meeting between town council and school committee to review an audit report because of some misaccounting on the school side. In March, Miriam got hired, 14 questions the school committee asked, et cetera, and the audit reports, as you've heard earlier, have continued to improve in complexity and completeness and accuracy. So we're much, much better off because of what she's done. But remember, too, we did have that issue, and it was before my time, but from my recollection was there were budget cuts made that resulted in a person being in the position that didn't do as well as they could, that resulted in that issue, et cetera. So just wanted to provide that historical perspective. I was fortunate to be along with it, but I know a lot of other folks perhaps listening now hadn't. So it's important. The devil's in the details. Also want to thank her and her effort, and also wish her a happy retirement.
You're stealing my
I'm
thunder,
having
Steve.
fun now.
This was going to be my closing, but you just stole it. So thank you.
Yeah. Felicia?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since the schools are sitting here, I will be remiss if I did not thank them for making the parking problem in the library more bearable. So over the years, 3 superintendents have always given the library permission to park at Davis Stair. So it's really been helpful in that all those programs that we have, we would not have had a place for people to park. Everybody knows that we do not have parking by any stretch of the imagination. And now that Davis Stair is closed, we're still using the space to park. I had forgotten to mention that part of the visioning is that we are going to need additional parking. I know that you're discussing what to do with the building, and I don't know if it includes the library at all, but the discussions that I have had with Jamie over and over and over again about the parking situation. Because if we did not have a place for people to park, the library would not be used at all. I also wanted to thank the superintendent. We've had a very good relationship with the schools, and more than 3 superintendents. It's always been easy for the library to pick up the phone and talk to the superintendent and talk to anybody in the business offices, the school administrative offices. And I want to commend the town administrator, Jamie Jeff, for making that communication so seamless. Recently, we were writing a grant for an English as a second language program. It's just to teach English to non-native speakers. We just recently started the program. There are 29 students waiting, and there are 59 volunteers who've stepped up and are now training. So we decided to expand the program. We were going to need a grant. And I cannot thank the superintendent enough for stepping up to the plate and writing a letter of recommendation for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So parking, I will add. Well, I want to add to the list of things. It's going to be a big issue.
Okay. Okay, is there anyone else in council chambers that might have a question or comment for the schools? Is there anyone out in Zoom land that has a question or comment for the schools? Lucas, Miriam, thank you.
Thank you.
Sure, do you have a closing
Last thing I'd
statement?
like to say, I'm so glad I had the pleasure to work with Miriam through this year. I know that she's retiring. She recently received an award through her organization, MASBO, which is the Massachusetts School Business Administrators Organization, and they awarded her the Friends of MASBO Award, which is a tremendous honor, and we're lucky that she received that, and I know that it was a big ceremony. They had a plaque. You may have seen an article on it in the news, but she's just been a fiscal steward for our district, and just someone who's just been tremendous in her abilities and her leadership, and really just easy to work with. And I've learned a tremendous amount. She's been a mentor in many ways. So I just want to say thank you very much for everything you've done. Thank you.
And certainly a total asset for the entire community.
Yes, sir. Yep. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any questions from the council on any other department? Councilor Frangillo.
Just had one for facilities.
Okay. Go.
Sorry.
Mike's here.
This is what I get to say.
Deliver the parking,
Last
Mike.
night.
Just say parking's coming.
What did
Parking.
what did I not think? What did I not ask? This is a weird one, especially because I don't fully know how all these processes work. But we did have a flooding this year, and floodings are expensive, very expensive, and it's my sort of question would be, are there investments that we could be making to prevent large expenses like those? Are there things that we could be doing to, put small bets on ourselves, insurance policies, whatnot, to avoid, one-time large expenses like that?
Are you talking about the senior center?
The senior center.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah. And I
So-
know it's not the first.
No, it isn't. So the result. So when you work with Maya pays the bill, you fix everything, and they go a little deeper, and they go into. There's an expert that's been out, and what we actually ended up finding is that when the contractor that we hired to do the second floor renovation and the elevator, which went bankrupt. Kind of, I don't know, he actually went bankrupt after, he was decertified, but we stopped.
It was non-existent 2/3 of the way through.
Yeah, we stopped paying him because we found out he wasn't paying any of his subs, even though he was lying to us and telling us he was paying his subs. So we held like $500,000, and the subs all ended up, filed sub and subs got paid, not everybody. That's just the way construction law works, but the big flood at the senior center was caused by that contractor's failure to re-insulate between the attic, specifically around the elevator shaft they built to re-insulate that back. And it was covered in a hard ceiling. There was a soffit there, which is no longer there. But in the restoration work done by, well, first there's somebody who rips everything out, and then there's somebody who puts everything back together, and the second company being Blue Sky. And they insulated all the areas that weren't insulated, and then insulated all the damaged insulation that had gotten wet and put out. So there is a direct cause to that, and Maya will most likely, I've been working with Maya for a really long time, and I've done a ton of depositions for Maya, because Maya pays, then Maya goes and sues, and we end up working with Maya in a suit and doing depositions for them against whoever they're suing. The 3 incidents at Keller Sullivan that happened over the course of like 7 years, and the second 2 being the exact same location sprinkler head, Maya sued Johnson Control and Compton Sprinkler for those. Compton ended up going out of business because they got the license pulled. But they sued them for $1.25 million. And there has been a settlement, although they haven't gone that deep. It didn't end up going to court. But the last I heard from the attorney from Tang Marvellis, the attorney firm that they use, they had agreed to a settlement, and they come up with something, $600,000-$700,000 that Johnson Controls Insurance Company was going to pay back to Maya for those. And I expect it's like this in every job. They sued Agostini Construction's insurance company for the flood at the high school back a number of years right after that happened. I did do a deposition on that. That did work out in Maya's favor as well. And they're going to be suing someone for the stuff at the senior center.
Bottom line is, we are doing the fixes when they come up to try and deal, to prevent it from happening again.
And there are some.
Thank you. No, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And to Kobe's question, the other investments, I think what Mike's trying to get at is sometimes when these things happen, you look in the rearview mirror, but there's a litigious environment around a lot of it. We have a great insurance company in Maya. There's Chapter 149. If you want to take the procurement class someday, it's excellent. Yeah, right. I mean, engineers are the ones that do that, right? I mean, I've taken it. I was certified, all this different stuff, but it's a very complicated topic. And I say that because when you're building the building, as this gentleman over here knows as best as anybody, as well as Attorney Sorrell, the DPW, Mike, there are those factors that Mike's speaking to when you're building a building. Just like your house, buildings have trouble. I mean, boilers go out, things happen. When you have 1.4 million square feet, the bleep's going to hit the fan every once in a while. I would just say that, are there investments that we can? Yeah. I mean, in certain cases, you try to build the building as modernized as it is when it's there. Technology advances, things change, you find gaps, you try to improve upon them. And that's where our capital plan comes from, right? Is we try to invest a lot of money here, there, and everywhere, wherever we can afford to put into those projects. And I hope I summarized it okay, coming from the expert in buildings. But in all seriousness, I just point back to last night. The pie's not big enough. We have a lot of facility in this community. Ball fields, roads, sidewalks, infrastructure, public ways, trails, bridges. We could go down the list. You got $3.5 million a year, folks. Like, I know we want a lot of stuff, but when we say are there investments, yeah, there's always investments, but it's gonna come at the casualty of other items. And so we try to use every avenue we can. I think what Mike's saying here with insurance, in the senior center case, they're gonna pay for that piece. And so, you know, it's a delicate balance. And as you go through the industry more and you build your career and you learn more as a volunteer or a staffer, you know, you kind of learn a lot more tricks of the trade. Yes.
And that's part of why during these projects, we build into the projects a design contingency
Yeah.
and a construction contingency, two different ones. One for design flaws, where the architect might have designed something incorrectly. And the construction contingency, just in case there's a construction piece that was not done right. But what happens is sometimes the problems don't arise until those contingencies have been exhausted or turned back to the town in one form or another, which is similar to, Mike and I have had this discussion about the senior center before. I think the first one was a design contingency. In my opinion, it will always be a design contingency where the architect made a mistake. The second one may be more on the other side of it. So, but when they do come up, one of the things that Mike does an excellent job at is going back, redesigning and making it, fixing the problem so it doesn't exist again. And I know we've had two at the senior center, but they were two different.
They're totally different,
And,
yeah.
they both flooded the senior center, but they were two different issues. And in one case, I believe it was a design contingency, design issue. The other case was definitely a contractor issue. And they no longer in business, it's had to go back, but that's what our insurance companies do. Mark, do you want to add something?
Yeah, just quickly, you do the best you can, it depends on the circumstances, which is why basically, in a nutshell, you carry insurance. Because you just can't possibly do the best you can, but you can't predict any possible. That's why they have stuff like acts of God, which is any kind of a nature thing. It can just come out of the blue and cause tremendous damage. Example, Norwood Hospital's no more because a 1,000-year flood hit and the infrastructure couldn't handle it. So you hope that you're covered by insurance. When that being said, you try to minimize your risk. You maintain your buildings, you provide oversight and make sure that temperatures are correct and that sort of thing. You don't have a load-bearing problem. If you're talking excessive snow, another example. Yep. But then when you're talking new construction, which is a nightmare that I've unfortunately shared too many experiences with the chair about, you do the best you can with the fact that Massachusetts law is aligned against you to get the best designer in, to get your own team that's going to provide oversight to what's called an OPM, an Owner's Project Manager, and then to get good GC and good subs. And that is an unbelievable challenge.
Unbelievable.
And unfortunately, the senior center, the second phase, which was supposed to be just a minor completion kind of project, turned into a poster child for what everything is wrong with public construction.
And we won't talk about Horace Mann.
Oh, we won't even
That's
talk.
way too big a story.
And then frankly, even before, when I got here, the issue had started with Remington Jefferson, with the roof.
Right.
Roof.
That was a new school, was built before me. At that time, the somebody on the building committee didn't like the idea of flat roofs on schools or public buildings.
I know,
I know. It's prohibitive to do stick construction for roofs on big buildings with that kind of area. The architect said, oh, there's a new technology out there that we could utilize. I'm not that familiar with it, but, so they went ahead and they designed a metal roof system. The architect designed the system the way he would design aesthetically all kinds of peaks and valleys. And what happened was after it got installed, it failed to take into account what snow and ice do when they build up on those kind of surfaces. What was happening was snow and ice was sliding, hitting the seams, and opening up seams all over the place. And by the time the finger pointing got cleared, the statute of, what's called the statute of repose, had run against everybody.
That was
More than you wanted to know.
That was a lot of helpful context. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm new to this. I don't have the experience that especially the 3 speakers or 4 speakers have in terms of how often these come up and things like that. It seems, facilities have so many important roles. It seems like one of the most important is making sure that we're proactively identifying and minimizing things like these. I hope that we are. It sounds like we are to the best of our abilities. If there are opportunities where we can help you, don't be shy about letting us know. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Frangillo. Other questions from the council on facilities? Any questions from the, in council chambers for facilities? Any questions out in Zoom land on facilities? Okay, we'll move on. Is there any questions from a councilor on any other department? Is there any question from the audience, from the council chambers on any other department? Is there any question out there in Zoom land on any department? Seeing none, I will declare the second public hearing on the FY24 budget closed. And what I'd like to do now is turn it over to Jamie.
Sure.
For just a quick overview.
Yeah, sure.
Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, obviously, before the council, the 2 hearings are set. The voting document and the resolution are on the agenda, down for legislation for action. I know there's another public hearing that we have to have this evening, Mr. Chairman, which we can do afterwards or at your pleasure. But just while everybody's aware, before you get to the sewer rate issue, let's close out at least the budget commentary. So a bunch of folks have asked me, well, where do we go from here? So the voting document is what it is in front of everybody tonight for both a little bit of staff, just trying to clear up and change things around. It takes a little while. I know I've put out a couple recommendations. The Senate budget did just pass a little while ago. The cherry sheets have not been released yet. We will get an email from DOR likely next week with the cherry sheet, and I think if everybody is in agreement, we can move forward with the budget adjustments that were on my suggested slide. We will take if everybody's comfortable with this, I just want to make sure everyone's aware, just for those who don't know the legislative process. The House has passed the budget, the Senate's passed the budget. There'll be 3 members of the House, 3 members of the Senate that are going to go to what's called a conference committee. They'll duke it out for a good month or 2. I don't know how long that goes. They are usually obligated to deliver a budget by June 30th. I've spoken to the superintendent and others, and just suggesting that if folks are comfortable and we want immediacy to make the budget adjustments on my list, then the only opportunity before June 15th that you heard from the superintendent on the deadline, I think it would be advantageous for the district to have the most up-to-date numbers codified in the budget that are on this list. The one only small caveat to that is that the assumptions we'll use is based on the Senate budget, because those are higher local aid numbers than what the House did. But I can't speak for conference committee, and I can't speak for the gubernatorial veto. I think it's highly unlikely the highest number of education and state aid, the governor's going to sign that. I can't guarantee it, but I think that that's probably palatable and a good assumption. So if folks are comfortable with the Senate Ways and Means budget numbers, we'll take a look at that cherry sheet next week and take a look at it, and we can plug that number in. We can get that all cleared up. In addition to these other items on the list, we will extract out the police and fire capital items and take, again, just so everybody's aware, the capital budget subcommittee already approved that gear for this year's team. So what we're talking about is next year. So we'll just have to fund that capital stuff in exactly the same way we've been funding it for years, through the capital program. This is not taking money away. I just wanted to illustrate to the public, particularly some of those that have been advocating for this, the challenges that we have to fund capital stuff in the operating budget. I think we've made that point. It's not as if our police and fire are not going to get the gear they need. We are going to fund that. In fact, the council has already funded that for the next year. So we'll take that $116,000 out of the fire and police budget and move it over to the school department. We'll also reduce the facilities budget by $100,000 on lawn watering, let Mother Nature do her thing. We'll lower the snow and ice removal expenses, $50,000. And we will also appropriate $250,000 to supplement the MEC budget for the Regional Dispatch Center. I just want to note for people that are wondering why we can't do that tonight, because the MEC stabilization account requires a 2/3 authorization from the council, which is an item you need to put on the agenda, which means you need 48 hours to put that item out there. If we do this on June 7th, that should suffice at least before the June 15th date, and then this will give approximately, got to wait for the Senate Ways and Means number, approximately about $766,000 in additional revenue for the school department, which will get them exactly to $1.8 million, which is just a hair above the 2.5% increase that is done annually. As I've said to other folks, we can certainly make additional adjustments all the way through November if there are other issues and sources that come up. I've always said to the school district, all my 8 years here, if there's some sort of funding or rational need or something that pops up, they got to just walk right next door, literally. You can even knock on the wall in between and just come next door and ask and just talk to me. And we'll talk to the finance team about what those needs are. So it's not as if we're far away, Mr. Chairman. You make this case oftentimes. We're right next door to each other. It's just a walk through. We understand this is a nimble situation, but I do think that the $1.8 million increase, in addition to some of the other recommendations and the things that we're working on over the summer, can provide at least a significant amount of relief for the issues that we've had here, we've heard over the last couple of days. So. My recommendation would be to vote on the voting document as is, so that the chiefs and other departments that have job postings to put out can put those out now. And obviously in 2 weeks, on June 7th, we'd put a resolution on to modify the voting document and modify the budget amendment from what's being voted tonight, so that it would reflect the updated Senate Ways and Means numbers as well as these others. And there would also be a resolution on that meeting for the transfer for the MEC stabilization fund. So it would be, I believe two legislations for action on June 7th.
That's great. Thank you, Jamie, for that. And I think that kind of addresses, that's that Plan B that we continue to talk about. Is it everything? No, it's not everything, but it certainly gets us to a number that's kind of been consistent with what we've been able to do the last 4 or 5 years. So, thank you, and thank you, Jamie, for Plan A, B, C, D, E. Yes,
Can we comment on it or question it?
On June 7th.
It's on for legislation for action.
Yeah. No, that isn't.
No, but the basic, the starting point.
the basic budget, then during that discussion you can. Okay. We now are moving on, and I will open a public hearing on bylaw amendment 23-897 sewer rate increase. Jamie, do you?
See, Mr. Chairman, I think we've tossed this one to death.
I think we have.
We're required to do this, so we just got to kind of do it just for the public's edification. This is the final and second vote for this 3-year sewer rate increase over the next 3 years to pay for the 109-year-old Beaver Street Interceptor replacement. That's all I got.
Okay. Why don't we since we opened the public hearing, is there anyone in the public that would like to speak to bylaw amendment 23-897 sewer rate increase? Seeing none, I go to legislation for action.
Close the hearing.
Huh? Is there anyone out on Zoom that would like to speak to bylaw amendment 23-897 sewer rate increase? Seeing none, I'll go to,
Close the
I'll declare the public hearing closed, and we'll move to resolutions, legislation for action, and we will go right down the list. First resolution is 23-33, adoption of the FY24 budget. Clerk will read the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Resolution 23-33, adoption of the FY 2024 budget. Whereas the Town Council conducting 2 public hearings on the fiscal year 2024 budget on May 24, 2023, and May 25, 2023, after due notice was given to the Milford Daily News. And whereas the Finance Committee issued printed recommendations with copies made available at each public hearing. And whereas the Town Council considered the FY 2024 budget on a departmental basis, and by vote so determined the size of the appropriation for each department on May 25th, 2023. Now therefore be it moved and voted to adopt said general fund budget, water enterprise fund budget, sewer enterprise fund budget, solid waste enterprise fund budget, and stormwater enterprise fund budget as set out in the fiscal year 2024 voting document, with a total appropriation of $150,948,188, of which $134,277,223 is to be raised and appropriated, and the balance transferred from the enterprise fund revenues to be appropriated as follows. Water fees, enterprise fund, $6,600,382. Sewer fees, enterprise fund, $6,014,827. Solid waste fees, enterprise fund, $2,515,639. Solid waste retained earnings, enterprise fund, $300,000. Stormwater fees, enterprise fund, $1,034,117, for total enterprise fund of $16,965. Sorry, I got tongue-tied for a minute there. This resolution shall become effective according to the provisions of the Town of Franklin Home Rule Charter. Finance Committee action on the meeting date of May 11th, 2023 was a unanimous vote, 8-0, to recommend total amount of $150,948,188.
Move resolution 23-33.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion.
All set.
Anything to add, Jamie? Discussion? Councilor Frangillo?
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to speak a little to those adjustments because they're important. This is the process at work, and I want to, like, Jamie has the hardest job because he's the one who has to say no to so many things. And it's our job to scrutinize, and that's what this these sessions are to look at every detail and scrutinize what he put forward and listen to the public and make the small tweaks as necessary to make sure that it's fully reflective of the community's values. In that process, make no mistake, we are beyond lucky to have a thoughtful town administrator who is willing to put long-term fiscal health over short-term political ease. And on aggregate, that saves us a lot. And so when we make little tweaks, and I'm happy that people showed out, that we were listened to, and that we are having a process to make the adjustments as necessary in the short term, while also having a very transparent conversation that the pot's not large enough to meet all of the community's wishes. The past 2 nights are about scrutinizing the work that you put forward. I do want to name, we're very grateful for all you and your staff to put together such a thoughtful document.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Frangillo. Any other questions or comments?
Second everything he just said.
Yeah. I agree.
Okay.
Good job, Gobi.
Yeah, very, very well said. And again, I think we'd also be remiss if we not only thanked the town administrator, the superintendent of schools, the entire school department, the entire municipal part of our government, every department head, every administrative staff member, for the work that goes in to putting a $150 million budget together to bring before us. It is an enormous amount of work, and as we are all aware, but maybe not everybody is, this starts in November, and we're in May, and we're still dealing with it. And we will continue to deal with it till November. And as I stated in the first night, this is the single most important job of the Franklin Town Council. So with that, the vote will come on the motion to approve Resolution 23-33. A majority vote's required. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Resolution 23-34, salary schedule, full-time elected official, town clerk. Clerk will read the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Resolution 2334, salary schedule, full-time elected official, a resolution amending Appendix A, Chapter 4 of the Code of the Town of Franklin entitled Salary Schedule, Full-Time Elected Official, be it resolved by the Franklin Town Council that Appendix A, Salary Schedule, Full-Time Elected Official, Chapter 4 of the Code of the Town of Franklin is amended as follows. Appendix A, Salary Schedule, Full-Time Elected Official, Office, Town Clerk, incumbent salary $106,000, FY24 salary $108,650. This resolution is effective for the fiscal year beginning on July 1st, 2023.
Move resolution 23-34.
Second?
Motion and a second. Discussion, Jamie?
I think everybody's aware, it's required by law to the council to approve the salary in town code for the elected official. This salary increase is completely commensurate with all of the other municipal staff at 2.5%, and the salary increase was included in that aggregate that I put on the slide the other night. So our illustrious town clerk is getting the same compensation as all the other municipal employees. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the council? Seeing none, the vote will come on the motion to approve Resolution 23-34. A majority roll call vote's required. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oh,
Roll call.
A roll
It's a
call?
resolution.
oh, it is a roll call. I apologize. A majority roll call vote.
Yes, sir.
That's what it says.
Yeah. The resolution.
Typically, that sounds good. All right. Want me Cormier Ledger.
Yes.
Sheridan.
Yes.
Chandler.
Yes.
Angelo.
Yes.
Pellegrini.
Yes.
Emblem.
Yes.
Jones, yes. Vice Chair.
Yes.
Chair.
Yes,
9-0, sir.
motion carries. You're welcome. Okay, Resolution 23-35, Departmental FY24 Expenditure Limits, Town Code, Chapter 73, Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53E, 1-2. Clerk will read the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Resolution 23-35. Expenditure limits for fiscal year 2024 and departmental revolving funds established by the Franklin Town Code. Chapter 73 is provided in Mass General Law, Chapter 44, subsection 53E and a half, as amended, where the Franklin Town Council has adopted a bylaw establishing a chapter of the Franklin Town Code, Chapter 73, departmental revolving funds, as provided in Mass General Law, Chapter 44, subsection 53E and a half, as amended by Chapter 218 of the of the Legislative Acts of 2016. You get me tongue-tied over here.
Yep.
Whereas Mass General Law, Chapter 44,
Yeah, it does.
53E and a half, as amended, further provides that the municipal legislative body shall annually set the expenditure limit for each revolving fund established under the local bylaw. Now therefore be it moved and voted that the Franklin Town Council hereby sets the expenditure limit for each revolving fund established under Franklin Town Code, Chapter 7, Departmental Revolving Funds for fiscal year 2024, as follows. Section 5.1, Senior Center Respite Program, $30,000. Section 5.2, Senior Center Activities Program, $100,000. Section 5.3, Senior Citizen Supportive Day Program, $100,000. Section 5.4, Use of Facilities Account, $100,000. Section 5.5, Fire Department Rescue Training Program, $10,000. And Section 5.6, Community Policing Programs, $25,000. This resolution shall become effective according to the provisions of the Town of Franklin Home Rule Charter.
Move resolution 23-35.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion, Jamie?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, these are required by statute to reauthorize every year. These are the exact same limits that have been in town bylaw for many years, and nobody's requesting the increased limits.
Thank you,
Pretty
Jamie.
straightforward.
Any questions from the council? Councilor Cormier Ledger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the town administrator, Jamie, for everybody listening, can you just explain, these are basically revolving accounts, much like we heard from the schools, where money comes in through fees and then money goes out? It's different from the budget, correct?
That's exactly correct.
Okay.
Yep, exactly the same thing.
Perfect, thank you.
We just have to authorize them. The one difference between the school and the town is that we have to, by statute, the town actually has to appropriate all these and do these every year, so.
And-
Any other?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
And Jamie, what happens to the balances in these accounts at the end of the year? Does it just stay there
It just stays there.
and just gets used for
It
the
just
same purposes in the next year?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Further comments or questions from the council? Seeing none, the vote will come on the motion to approve Resolution 23-35. A majority votes required. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Resolution 23-23, approval of FY24 Community Preservation Annual Budget. Clerk will read the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Resolution 23-23, appropriation for fiscal year 2024 estimated revenues for administrative expenses, $92,542, reserve accounts, from FY24 estimated revenues for historic preservation reserve, $187,084, from fiscal year 24 estimated revenues for community housing reserve, $187,084, for fiscal year estimated revenues for open space and recreation, $1,017,693, fiscal year 24 estimated revenues for budget reserve, $385,441. Total amount requested, $1,870,844, for the purposes of to see if the town will vote to appropriate and reserve from the Community Preservation Fund annual revenues in the amounts recommended by the Franklin Community Preservation Committee for required reserve accounts and administrative expenses and other expenses of fiscal year 2024, with each item to be considered a separate appropriation. The motion be moved and voted by the town council that the sum of $1,870,844 be appropriated or reserved as indicated above in fiscal year 2024 from the Community Preservation Fund annual revenues in the amounts recommended by the Franklin Community Preservation Committee. Resolution to become effective according to the provisions of the Town of Franklin Home Rule Charter. The Community Preservation Committee Act had a meeting on April 7, 2023 with a unanimous vote for the recommended amount of $1,870,844. I'm sorry, March 7th. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Move resolution 23-23.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion. Jamie?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, this is the approved recommended budget, carved up exactly as it should with the 1010 reserves. As you'll notice on the budget, the open space and recreation reserve is higher because of the open space parcels, as well as the projects that are recommended by the CPC, which is the two resolutions from now. And so this is the recommended budget from the CPC for the year.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the council? Seeing none, the vote will come on the motion to approve Resolution 23-23. Again, a majority votes required. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Resolution 23-24, FY24 Community Preservation Appropriation of Debt Service Funds, Maple Hill and Schmidt Farm. Clerk will read the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Resolution 23-24, appropriation for fiscal year 24, community preservation appropriation of funds, debt service, Maple Hill Land and Schmidt's Farm. Total amount requested $692,693. The purpose, to appropriate from community preservation, open space reserve fund, the sum of $692,693 to pay the annual Maple Hill Land and Schmidt Farm bond debt service. Principal Maple Hill, $150,000. Interest Maple Hill, $117,818. Principal Schmidt's Farm, $180,000. Interest Schmidt's Farm, $244,875 for a total of $692,693. Community Preservation Committee recommendation. Meeting date on March 7th, 2023 was a unanimous vote to recommend $692,693. Motion be moved and voted that the town council at the sum of $692,603 be appropriated from the Community Preservation Open Space Reserve Fund in fiscal year 24 to pay the annual Maple Hill Land and Schmidt's Farm bond debt service. This resolution shall become effective according to the provisions of the Town of Franklin Home Rule Charter.
Move resolution 23-24.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Jamie?
Required
Anything to
payments.
add? Yeah, required. Questions or comments from the council? Seeing none, the vote will come on the motion to approve Resolution 23-24. A majority votes required. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Resolution 23-25, FY24 Community Preservation Appropriation of Capital Funds. Clerk will read the resolution.
Motion to waive the reading?
Second.
Motion is second to waive the reading. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Move resolution 23-25.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Jamie, quick summary.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I actually request out of the council last minute amendment to this to actually take off the Nason Street tot lot. This is good news. The project is done. We did this as an emergency that we thought the cost project would go over. The money just goes right back into the budgeted reserve. So we don't need the $25,000. The CPC committee thought, and we all thought, that the cost would go higher. But as the project's done, it also gives me a cheap plug. This Wednesday, the Nason Street tot lot opens at 5 o'clock. On Wednesday, the 31st, it'll officially be the first community preservation project that's completed. And so I just got wind of this recently. We thought this would go over, so if folks want to save the $25,000, you just have to amend the resolution and take that off. Thank you.
Does somebody want to make a?
Motion to amend the resolution to remove the $25,000 allocation for the Mason Street Tower.
Second.
And reduce the total amount to 300,000.
Correct. And reduce the total amount to $300,000.
Okay. Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, the vote will come on the amendment. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we'll vote the amended motion of Resolution 23-25 as amended with a motion to approve 23-25. Majority votes required. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 23, bylaw amendment, 23-897, sewer rate increase, second reading. Clerk will read the bylaw amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is bylaw amendment 23-897. Sewer usage rates being enacted by the Franklin Town Council at Chapter 82 of the Code of Town of Franklin entitled Fees. Municipal Services hereby amended at Appendix A as follows. Appendix A lists the sewer service usage rates. Effective for bills issued on or after July 1st, 2023, sewage usage rates shall be as follows. CCF 0 through 15, the sewer rate in 7/1/2023 will be $7.22. On 7/1/2024 will be $8.31, and on 7/1/2025 will be $9.42. For 16 to 40 CCFs, it's going to go to $7.69 on 7/1/23, $8.85 on 7/1/2024, $10.03 on 7/1/2025. For CCFs 41 plus, it's going to go to $8.83 on 7/1/23, $10.17 on 7/1/24, $11.52 on 7/1/25. Quarterly sewer only is going to go to $2.18 on 7/1/23, $2.60 on 7/1/24, and $3.10 on 7/1/2025. This bylaw amendment shall become effective according to the provisions of Franklin Home Rule Charter.
Move resolution, move bylaw amendment 23-897.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Jamie, anything to add?
Nope, all good.
Councilor Pellegrini?
Question through the chair. How can we predict what it's going to be, 7/1/24 and 7/1/25? Why aren't we doing just 1 year and then bringing it back if we have to the following year?
Through you,
Jamie?
Mr. Chairman. Because the debt service schedule, the interest is set at 1.5%. The financing through the borrowing and through bond council and in the state, you have to remember also this goes through the state revolving fund, the Clean Water Trust at the Commonwealth. So when you give them an application this thick, it has to lay out all of the costs for the whole project in the duration of the project. So our finance director knows that that's exactly what needs to be paid and where the cost drivers are for the actual project. So it's all laid out for the 20-year borrowing for this year, next year, the year after that, and all throughout the entire 20 years of the project.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the council? Seeing none, the vote will come on the motion to approve bylaw amendment 23-8970. A majority roll call votes required. Clerk will call the roll.
Sheridan.
Yes.
Romeo Ledger.
Yes.
Frangillo.
Yes.
Chandler.
Yes.
Hamlin.
Yes.
Pellegrini.
Yes.
Jones, yes. Vice Chair.
Yes.
Chair.
Yes.
9-0, sir.
Motion carries. Resolution 23-36, authorizing the borrowing of money to pay costs associated with designing and constructing and equipping a PFAS treatment facility at the Wells 7 and 7A site. DWSRF 12544. Clerk will read the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is resolution.
Motion to waive the reading.
Second.
Motion and a second to waive the reading. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Move resolution 23-36.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Jamie, quick summary?
Same thing we talked about a few weeks ago. We got to do both of these votes, the next two, to require by code to send this to DEP for their approval.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the council? Seeing none, the vote will come on the motion to approve Resolution 23-36, a two-thirds majority votes required. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Resolution 23-37, authority for town administrator to file drinking water state revolving fund loan application. Clerk will read the resolution.
Motion to waive the reading.
Second.
Motion and a second to waive the reading. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Move resolution 23-37.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Jamie?
Oh,
Yep. Counselor
Can I ask,
Frangillo.
Just for
Sure.
a
Clarification.
sentence or two of color, just because we are waiving the reading, just for people at home, I know they can find it on their own, but just like a sentence or two, what is being done right here?
Fair enough, Councilor Frangillo. So what's being happened is we're being required by the Commonwealth and/or EPA to update on updated PFAS regulations. Folks out there may know the Forever chemical, and so with the leadership of our water sewer department and Doug Martin is tapping into this loan application for a $6.5 million upgrade to our wells. To be able to make those more PFAS compliant. I would note, and I'm glad you brought it up, but there's a letter here that the entire town council signed, so back to unfunded mandates. Your town council out there, for folks looking, are actually trying to raise some issues about the local unfunded mandates around this PFAS regulations. I think the analogy was made, if you know, how can you clean up the mess if the faucet hasn't been turned off? So we're just gonna keep on spinning around, like dogs chasing their tails, trying to clean a chemical that is still consumed by every one of us every day. 98% of Americans have PFAS in their body right now. And this letter is raising these financing issues. As we heard from the water sewer superintendent, this is $50–60 million worth of upgrades over the next decade the town of Franklin's going to have to foot the bill for. As I put on my slideshow the other day, it's almost certain that we're going to be raising water rates next year, just like you just did for sewer rates. To pay for the interceptor,
Right.
rates are going to have to go up, just like the Beaver Street interceptor. To Councilor Pellegri's question earlier, there'll probably be a resolution next year raising rates for 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 years in a row to help pay for this regulation. I do commend all the counselors for signing this. This isn't easy. I think we all want clean water. We all want great drinking. You know, it's tough to fight this, but it's the right thing to do. Where with other things like lead, getting that out of paint, you know, they prohibited lead from being in paint, so they stopped the chemical. So I hope that's 5 sentences, but I hope that gets across the point.
One or two sentences, but no, thank you, that's helpful to me.
30.
Getting
Counselor Frangillo.
saucy.
Any other questions from the council? Seeing none, the vote will come on the motion to approve Resolution 23-37. Again, a two-thirds majority votes required. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. My favorite resolution. Resolution 23-38, cable funds in support of PEG service and programming per Mass General Law, Chapter 44, subsection 53, F and 3/4. Clerk will read the resolution.
Motion to waive the reading happily, Mr. Chairman.
Motion and a second to waive the reading. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Move resolution 23-38.
Second.
Motion and a second to waive the reading?
No.
No, I'm sorry. The vote will now come on the motion
Right.
to approve Resolution 23-38. Again, a majority vote's required. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, one and all. A very lengthy legislation evening. Town Administrator's report.
What would,
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I couldn't resist.
Motion to waive the reading.
Second.
What would a council meeting be without some PEG funding to have to vote on at the end? But in all seriousness, Mr. Chairman, really quickly, just want to thank all of the councilors for their support, the comments earlier by Councilor Frangillo, obviously all of the department heads, all of the staff, the superintendent of schools, the school committee, the entire school staff, the principals, everybody, for an incredibly challenging year. Finance committee, and just incredible job from everybody on this budget. Obviously, I think in a couple weeks, we're going to improve upon that and try to achieve more community goals, but just want to thank everybody for their support on behalf of the organization. Right when we think our week is over, it is not over. We get to get up bright and early again tomorrow, just to continue the sleepless nights. With the Memorial Day breakfast tomorrow. So really excited for that. And then with the nice weather over the weekend, I think it's incumbent upon all of us to hopefully take a few days off to rest and recuperate. And the Celtics are up at halftime. Thank you.
In the parade.
We have the parade, right?
And we have the parade on Monday.
Oh, I'm sorry. Up 96-78 in the fourth quarter. Cowboy up. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, thank you. Tomorrow's 9 o'clock, 9 to 11.
Okay, it's not 9:30.
No, it's 9. Subcommittee reports.
I don't even remember.
I don't think any subcommittees met since
No,
our
I
last
think we'll meet.
council meeting.
We'll-
Do you have a GATRA update?
I'll provide a GATRA update at our next meeting.
Thank you very much. Arts and culture.
We did have arts and culture, though.
You did have arts and
I'd like to
culture.
speak quickly
Okay.
to arts and culture. We had our third our third and final listening session. Now working on organizing all the thoughts that we collected. I mean, they really made the case for what we've started to do here, which is build out arts and culture investments by the town. It is important, there's immediate need, and there's going to be an immediate impact from those investments. I look forward to organizing the thoughts and presenting them to the council.
Good.
Okay, future agenda items.
Anybody?
Councilor Sheridan, I can't see you down there. Nothing at this time. Councilor Frangillo. Councilor Hamblin.
Nothing, thank you.
Councilor Cormier-Legge.
Nothing,
Councilor
sir.
Chandler.
Nothing at this time.
Councilor Pelleggi.
I think we should look at the council rules and regulations so that our meetings don't go on until midnight. Seriously.
Well, the budget hearing is difficult. We can
Yeah,
shut a
but
deadline.
Continue it, just like
Yeah,
we
we
did.
could continue.
Yeah.
Yep. Councilor Jones.
Sir.
Councilor DeLarco. Okay, councilor comments. Councilor Cormier-Legge.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank everybody that did come out to our third and final Arts and Culture Tour. Thank you, Councilor Hamblin and Councilor Frangillo, who I think we made a pretty great team on that ad hoc committee, and I feel good about the work that we did. I want to say congrats and welcome to a company called PCI that just opened their gigantic mail facility in Franklin. I was lucky enough to go to the grand opening along with Representative Roy. It was unlike any grand opening I think I've ever been to. Not that I get to go to too many, but it wasn't your normal ribbon cutting with a donut. They had Revolutionary War reenactors. They had priceless Ben Franklin pieces to review. We got to see the facility and really see how it all worked. And they're going to employ a couple of hundred people right here in Franklin, and it's going to be their company's Northeast hub. So they searched all around and picked Franklin, so we're pretty lucky to have them. My sincere condolences, of course, to the Gaspar family for the loss of Nick, and I just wanted to say thank you to the entire community for the outpouring of love and support for that family. It was incredibly heartfelt, and I am very much looking forward to attending the breakfast tomorrow. And I would like to also say congrats and thank you to everybody on this illustrious panel and in this room tonight, because this was not an easy 2 days, and it has not been an easy lead up to this with a lot of difficult discussions, but I think we can feel good about where we are and where we're going and know that there's still some room for improvement. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Cormier-Ledger. Councilor Chandler.
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna stick with the budget. I mean, we did a great job, everybody, thank you. A lot of work. And I'll say thank you to all the department heads and their people. There's been a lot of people that stuck through this, especially last night. I was really proud of everybody that stuck with us, and I really mean thank you. And hopefully, the next round, we can get a little more to people.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Chandler. Councilor Pellegrini?
I just want to thank all the department heads and their people, as was said by these two. And it was a difficult budget, but I think we did the best that we could possibly do. And thank you all for working so well with us.
Thank you, Councilor Pellegrini. Councilor Sheridan.
I'll second everything for the department heads and Nick's family, and this weekend we remember the people who gave their life for our country.
Thank you. Councilor Frangillo?
Echo the gratitude, echo the condolences, echo the excitement for Memorial Day recognitions. The only thing I would add is on the note of cultural grants and investments. I received a grant to pilot a local movie theater experience to bring that back because I've been called upon since the loss of the Zoetrope. Our second film is on Tuesday, 7 p.m. at the Black Box Theater, showing If Beale Street Could Talk. We got popcorn, we got craft soda, candies. It's a good time. Come out, and if you want to read the novel that it's based on, they're selling it right now at Escape into Fiction. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Frangillo. Councilor Hamblin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I want to thank the town administration team, the school administration team, all the department heads, all the workers who constantly try to fit what they do into the budget constraints that we put on you. You always work extra. You do the best for with the least amount, and we appreciate that. I see you, and I want to thank you all. I also want to thank the people from the FinCom who held 3 budget hearings that I will again plug for people to go and watch and to look. You could even just look at the presentations that are there. They're very informative, and it's very important if you want to learn how the budget works in the process. As Councilor Frangillo talked about the process, it's part of the really good thing that we do here, I think. I was walking my dog this morning, trying to process what happened last night, and all the feelings, all the emotions, and usually around this time in the term, I always think like, well, I think about myself, like I critique myself. Am I being effective? Am I actually taking a seat from someone else that could do a better job? What's going on? Why am I there? And then I think, why did today, it was only today, not yesterday. I thought, why did I even move to Franklin? Because this weekend will be my 13th anniversary of living in Franklin, right? So I haven't been here that long. But why did I come here? And I came here for the open space. And the low tax rate, basically, is why we moved from Westwood. My son was in college, you know, and we were like kind of free. We could move wherever we wanted to go. But now I know what a low tax rate means, and I think we've all experienced that these past 2 days. You know, I mean, we talked a little bit about the library. You know, the library, when we first moved here, was on the brink of not meeting the minimum standard spent for, and for in a town, in the library that holds Ben Franklin's books is like, it was just insane when you think about it, right? Yeah. The safety department has never really had the correct amount of personnel or supplies. Schools have cut language and arts. We've heard that over and over again about all the years in a row, these little cuts get made. And it's been whittled down to what seems, all these little things that are thought of as extras, which we've heard recently, and I believe wholeheartedly that they're what keep people alive. They're like, that's how people find out who they are. And it's really important. They're not extras. And the roads, well, we're not even going to bring up the roads because we know what they're like. But it's a struggle to get things done. And we chip away at it a little bit at a time. And I hope everybody knows, like, that's where we live. This is where we live. This is what's happening. You know, and then I started thinking about, well, what did we learn last night? Because there always has to be positives when things are really stressful. And we learn from when we're out of our comfort zone. And so Councilor Frangillo actually put it together pretty clearly for, like, our administrators are fearful that we can't sustainably support our spend because our revenue, with our revenue and our state aid, right? We know that, right? And I understand that. I feel the same way. We might not all think that, but we have to admit that at least some people in the room feel that way, okay? It felt like last night there was some kind of barrier that I think has probably shifted a little bit tonight with the wonderful school department and the conversation that Lucas and Councilor Frangillo had. That was really powerful to me. And it just seemed like there was some kind of communication problems there. And I just want to thank both of you for what you said earlier, because that was really great. And I think it helps everybody understand where we all stand, right? And then we learned that a big part of our town feels as if it's thought of as only a burden to the rest of the town. And to me that means unwelcome and not worth the effort, a very heavy load to carry. And I just want to apologize if I have had a role in that, because I don't think it's fair and I don't think it's okay. And I promise I will try to do better. You know, we learn these things and say these things and accept them, validate these feelings so that we can move forward as a team, right? That's the whole point. And I feel like these past two nights have really helped us understand each other so we can solve these serious issues, and then we can work together to move forward as one Franklin. And I just want to thank you all for actually just listening to me. If you are, you're probably, maybe you're not, but this was a really powerful hearing, I think, and it was amazing to be a part of it. And I want to thank everyone, all my colleagues, everyone out there. And we can get tough things done. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank
Sorry,
you, thank you, Councilor Hamblin. Councilor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mel, very well said. Very well spoken by all of our councilors tonight. You're a great team. Really remarkable team. This is my 15th budget, and I don't know if it'll be my last or not. We'll see what happens next year. I'm getting tired. But as you can, it's been a long night. But I just want to simply state that how happy and proud I am of everyone who's really stepped up and made this budget season, for as difficult as it was. And we managed to get through it. We're going to find ways to make this work. As I'm sitting here across my news feed over here, I was happy to hear many things from the Celtics doing well, to the Senate budget passing. But I have to point out, probably one of the most important things that happened for me tonight is my son Simon, this is with Mr. Grossman, on the stage at the Franklin Public Schools being awarded for Best Actor at the Franklin School of the Franklin Public Schools Theater Group.
Takes after
From
his
Mr. Grossman.
Takes after his father.
Yeah, he's an actor. He's a ham. But I just want to also state the young lady you heard last night, one of the young ladies that got up to speak in part of the public school systems, an 8th grader who just happens to be my daughter. So that was Becca Jones last night who got up and spoke to us last night. She waited all night. I give her kudos for just that task alone, having sit through one of our council meetings in the budget hearings to get to the point where she felt enough courage to come up and speak her mind in regards to how important the music, the chorus, and the theater, and all of that really is to these kids. And it's just as much as a passion to them as is baseball, soccer, and hockey to all the other kids. Every single part of our system matters, and it matters to somebody. And it's our job to do our best to take the taxpayers' money and appropriate it towards what is ultimately, at the end of the day, I think what Mr. Valley used to always say, it's the big picture, it's what the needs are. We're always here to try to meet our needs. There's always wants that we always want to try to have. But at the end of the day, we have to make some really tough decisions, and I think we've done a really good job of doing that. One of the points that came up with my apprentices, they love when I talk off topic about things, was how much the town is worth, because they were curious how the whole tax rate process works. So I actually looked it up. Thanks to our town clerk who left. I know she's tired. In the town report, I found out that the total assessed value of the town of Franklin is $4.6 billion. That is a tremendous amount of money. Granted, it's not nearly as much as some other communities are worth, but that is a tremendous valuation for our town. And I just thought I'd put some context behind the fact that our budget's $150 million of a $4.6 billion community. So.
Thank you, Councilor Jones. Councilor DeLorco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also want to just reiterate what everybody else says to, all the department heads, Jamie, all your staff, they all did a great job. Yeah, you're gonna make some tough decisions, but we'll all get there. Whatever's been done is done. Now we gotta figure out how to fix it. We're gonna fix it. That's it. That's our job. We gotta fix it. Between everybody else, the school committee, everybody else. We just gotta get together and fix it. That's it. At the end of the day, that's what we have to do. We gotta figure a way to fix it, and we will. But outside of that, it's been a long couple nights. Thank God I'm not working tomorrow, because I would've left halfway through. Couple things. Obviously, tomorrow the Veterans Breakfast, I actually will be there. Just gotta thank your vets this weekend, especially, think of them, especially the ones that didn't make it home, so we could actually sit up here and argue about everything that we're supposed to argue, because they went there and they never made it home. I'm lucky I got 3 family members on the common, that have fought in past wars. So, but they made it home. A lot of their friends didn't. I have tremendous respect for that. Unfortunately, I will not be able to be at the parade. I have to work. Can you imagine that? I have to work, but we got a big inspection coming up, so I have to work on Monday. So I just want to just want to tell you that I won't be there, and hope everybody has a good time. And July 3rd, the Franklin Rod and Gun is having a their fishing derby. So it's like $10. I'll be working it. There's $10 for the adults, $5 for the kids, $5 for breakfast, pizza all day free. Every kid gets a trophy, whether they get even if they get a fish this big, you know what I mean? They get
Are
like.
you getting one?
Are
you getting a
I
trophy?
probably wouldn't catch a fish, so I probably wouldn't, but, just wanna let everybody know that it's a good time. So, outside of that, that's it.
Thank you, Councilor DeLarco. I'd like to first offer our condolences to the Gasper family for the tragic loss. And I'd again like to thank all the department heads, our town administrator, our superintendent of schools, our school committee, finance committee, all the department heads that came out, and all of the residents that came to, and students that came to listen to the public hearing on the budget, the most important thing we do. I think it was very impressive. It was a very long night. Tonight isn't that much shorter, but we have gotten through it. One of the things that I spoke about last night, and I am so looking forward to, our concern, and I think the concerns of the entire community is the sustainability of where we are and how we move forward. And I'm looking forward to working together with the Joint Budget Subcommittee, with members of the school committee, members of the council, and members of the finance committee, and putting together a strategic financial plan as we move forward for the next 3 to 5 years, what we need to be looking at, what we may or may not need for an override coming up in the not too distant future. But these are things that we have to develop a plan for. And I think we're in a good place. We've worked very hard over the last couple of days as a council, talking about different things. So I am looking forward to the building of that strategic financial plan to move forward with. And nobody got the extra $50,000 in their budget because nobody came up with the Fab Five, who they were. So for those who didn't know, that was the freshman Michigan basketball team: Chris Webber, Jalen Rose, Howard, Juwan Howard,
Jimmy King, and Ray Jackson.
Very good. Jamie and I were the only two that knew.
Can we get 50 grand in the TA budget?
No, you don't count.
Thank you, Google.
The only one who probably can.
If you want to know, there is a Franklin resident that played against the Fab Five and lost.
Wow.
Mr. Bill Brigham.
Wow.
He played for Maryland, and he lost against the Fab Five.
A lot of people that were here last night weren't even born when the Fab Five came through.
I hope he didn't call timeout.
Yeah. Okay, with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Non-debatable. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?